Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you're watching first part of What If Kid Naruto received Minato's letter before Academy. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Not wasting no more time. Let's start the story.
Rewind 7 years. Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, gives his newborn son Naruto to Hiruzen, the retired 3rd Hokage, after the nine-tailed fox attacked the hidden leaf and all attempts to kill or repel it failed. Minato starts, but on his 7th birthday, give him this letter, it is for his eyes only. He emphasizes the phrase, his eyes only. Take care of him for me, he won't have a mother and father when he needs them. Hiruzen says, I understand Minato. I wish I could be the one to do this, he adds regretfully, as Minato smiles. He adds, make sure Naruto is seen as a hero, he'll carry a heavy burden till he dies. You're not the Hokage, I am, so it has to be me, he says, leaving Hiruzen with the sobbing infant Naruto and a glowing seal on his stomach. The end of the flashback. The village was rebuilt and people moved on after Minato passed away and Hiruzen assumed the role of Hokage once more. Sadly for Hiruzen, and in spite of Minato's wishes, Naruto was not viewed as the hero who kept the fox imprisoned. While some villagers think he is the nine-tailed fox, others fear the beast will take over Naruto's body, but he serves as a constant reminder of the terrible and tragic day for all of the villagers. In a last-ditch attempt, Hiruzen made a law that forbids anyone from discussing the attack with Naruto or the village children. If the law is broken, the offender could face severe repercussions. Simply bringing up the subject would result in equal punishment. As a result, he is shunned and singled out. This law was created to allow Naruto to make friends, but because no one would punish him, the children ignored and bullied him because their parents' fears were transferred to them. Hiruzen sits by himself in his office, having dispatched an Anbu to pick Naruto up from his apartment on this day. Today Naruto turns 7. He waits to give it to Naruto, fulfilling Minato's final directive, while examining the same letter that Minato gave him on this day 7 years ago, unopened and with its contents unknown to him. The room becomes quiet when a young boy with whiskers and blonde hair walks in. I was in the middle of making dinner, instant ramen. He asks angrily, crossing his arms. What do you want, old man? Hiruzen gives the boy a blank look. He knows that Naruto never celebrates his birthday or receives a gift for it, and that as Hokage, he is unable to give Naruto special treatment, despite his desire to do so. He slides the envelope across his table to Naruto, who picks it up. Open it when you get home, Hiruzen says, and Naruto nods, but he never takes his eyes off the envelope. Today is your 7th birthday, Hiruzen starts, observing an indifferent expression on Naruto's face. Hiruzen gives the order, Anbu escort Naruto home. The apartment of Naruto hurried to his table as soon as he got inside his house, grabbed a knife, and opened the envelope with it. He thought it might be a practical joke or something, but he couldn't resist. He picks up and reads a folded piece of paper that falls out. To Naruto, it is your 7th birthday if you are reading this and you followed my instructions. Happy birthday, Naruto. I wish I could have been there to watch you grow up, but Faith told me I couldn't. My name is Minato Namikaze, and yes, I am or was the 4th Hokage, but I am also the one who gave you your name because, as you can see, I am your father. Your first day at the academy is almost here if you are 7 years old. Since the nine-tailed fox is sealed inside of you, I assume you wonder why the villagers treat you differently or are wary. I suspect that you were not treated like a hero as I had hoped, and as a result, you lack any prior shinobi skills. There is an address and a transformation technique explained in the simplest way on the back of this letter. Once you have mastered this technique, go to the address on the back and everything will be explained. Remember to leave the 3rd Hokage a note instructing him to examine the back of my photo in the Hokage shrine before you depart. Though time is limited, know that I believe in you. I wish I had more time to explain things myself. With all of my heart's love, father. Tears of happiness and sorrow are streaming from Naruto's eyes as he finishes. My dad, I know who my dad is, he said, feeling his heart slow as the realization really set in. He then turned the letter over and saw the address and the jutsu. He follows the directions and starts practicing the technique. Okay, it's a month until I start at the academy, so I have until then to get this down, he says. 2 weeks later, Naruto has finally managed to make his transformation palatable enough to trick those who aren't searching for a transformation method. After writing a note for the 3rd as instructed by his father, he leaves the building and enters an alleyway, changing into a man in his late 20s. Before breaking the jutsu, he starts to stroll idly in the direction of the gate leading out of the village. Thinking in his head, I did it. He follows the instructions in the letter. According to my dad, this place is only 30 minutes away from the village, but surely, whack. He is unsure if he is being followed or not. Naruto's monologue is interrupted when he strikes a barrier, but he manages to get past it and collapses to the ground. Ow! He exclaims in agony, and when he looks up, he sees the house with the address he's been searching for. What the? He exclaims in shock as the door opens and a woman with a slim but feminine build, fair skin, blue eyes, and long, bright red hair with strands framing both sides of her face and a black clip that parts her hair to the left. A long, loose, fitting dress with a sleeveless blouse with a high collar. While the dresses have varied from tan to green, the blouses have been shown in slate blue and white, blue. She also wore pale purple standard shinobi sandals and a dark blue band around her left wrist. Naruto! She exclaims as she rushes up to embrace him, her eyes welling with tears. She can tell by the tension in his body that he was unsure. I guess Minato decided to make it a surprise. She smiles, whispering, "I'm Kushina, your mother." Mom! Naruto's arms uncontrollably embrace the woman, and his eyes enlarge. "But now that you are here, we can be together," she says, releasing the hold so she can get a good look at her son. "Yes, my darling, I know you must want to know why I never came to see you, but your father was afraid you'd become a target if foreign shinobi found out you were his son." She smiles at the teary-eyed boy. When Naruto yells, "Why? Why did he do it?" Kushina understands and puts her hands lightly on his shoulders. "He sealed the nine-tailed fox into his own son," he exclaims. "Because he knew only you could handle the burden," she responds gently. "He believes in you, and I do too." She continues, "You're the only person in the world who could succeed at containing the nine tails." With a grin. "And believe me, I know how it feels." Unaware that they've entered the house, Naruto asks, "How?" "Because the nine tails was sealed in me before it was sealed in you," Kushina responds, "but your training will take priority." Naruto looks perplexed. "In the letter, Minato wanted you to come here before you started at the academy," she starts, recalling that. "And before you left your house he told you to make sure the third looked behind your father's photo in the Hokage shrine, right?" He nods. "Well, you see, you come from two clans, the Uzumaki and the Namikaze. Therefore you have unique chakra and you would struggle learning normal academy training, so you will learn the basics in the Uzumaki and Namikaze justices here and then go to the academy on graduation day to take the exam," she concludes. Naruto asks, So you're going to teach me, Mom?" He felt strange calling Kushina Mom because he had only recently met her, but he couldn't resist. As his face brightens, she responds, "While Kazuki, Minato's younger brother, teaches you your father's jutsu, I will teach you the special Uzumaki." "When do we start?" exclaims Naruto eagerly. "In the village a few days later." When Hiruzen sent Anbu to his apartment and reported that he wasn't there, he used his crystal ball to track Naruto outside the village but was unable to find his current location. Hiruzen was starting to worry that he hadn't heard from Naruto since he gave him the envelope from Minato and that the village had been quieter. He dispatched the Anbu once more to look for hints about Naruto's whereabouts in his apartment, but it only came back with a note that Naruto had written. "Visit the shrine of the Hokage and examine the image of the fourth from the back." Naruto Hiruzen was perplexed by this. He assumed the letter informed Naruto of his true ancestry, but he was unable to determine where he had gone or why Minato's picture was mentioned. Nevertheless, he chose to comply with Naruto's note and removed the photo from the frame, picking up a piece of paper that fell out. "I appreciate you giving Naruto the letter, Hiruzen. If you are reading this, you did as I said. Naruto is currently hiding with his mother and learning our clan's techniques. He won't come back until his age group's graduation day. He will be taught the fundamentals so he can pass the graduation exam, but teaching him other jutsu will be difficult, if not impossible, due to his special chakra." Assuming that Naruto was abandoned by the villagers and that his true identity has been concealed from him up to this point, I kindly ask that you leave him to his training and refrain from looking for him. He will return stronger and prepared to bear the Namikaze name. P.S. I'm sorry you had to leave retirement, warmest regards. Minato. As he reads the P.S., Hiruzen smiles and says, "Very well, Minato, I leave Naruto to your clan." He muses, though I'll need answers once he returns, knowing that the village elders would become irate if they learned. Naruto is back. He had spent the past week acclimating to the compound and getting to know the other clan members. The Uzumaki and Namikaze now shared a home. There were other kids on the Uzumaki side and just one boy on the Namikaze side. He was about a year older than Naruto and had long, blonde hair with spikes. He was named Sora, was the son of Kazuki, and would be training with Naruto. He had a similar big mouth to Naruto. After Minato's death, Kazuki, a tall, thin man who enjoyed wearing kimonos and other styled robes, stopped being a shinobi and started selling custom shinobi tools. Most of them were epic failures with the odd diamond, but he was fine. Kazuki stands in front of the two boys and says, "Okay Naruto, Sora." He smiles and says, we will start practicing fuinjutsu or sealing techniques. He says, this is one of the Namikaze's greatest attributes, it can be used to store weapons and ninjutsu into scrolls. He goes on, once you've mastered the basics you will be able to form your own sealing techniques. Naruto asks, so fuinjutsu is the Namikaze's specialized jutsu? No, you see why we are skilled, the Uzumaki clan are the masters of fuinjutsu, replies Kazuki. But in order for you to learn the Namikaze true talent which is space-time ninjutsu, he giggles. Naruto exclaims, that is so cool, with a gleam in his eyes. As Kushina enters the room, he says, but you will need to learn the basics of fuinjutsu first, so I leave you with my sister.in.law or Naruto's mother Kushina. Kushina smiles and says, okay, let's get started. After 6 years, man I beat, Sora sighs as he reclines on the couch. I can handle 5 before I'm exhausted, he says. Naruto smirks and says, as long as it's not more than a mile, I can do it without running out of chakra. But that's down to my not-so-little fox demon, he adds. Even though Sora graduated a year ago and was already a chunin, he knew Naruto was a prodigy and was interested to see how he would interact with the genin in his year. Well, you are the son of the creator of the jutsu, so why wouldn't you be better at it? Sora laughs but smiles. He and Naruto get along like brothers but are rivals. As Kushina walks in carrying laundry, Naruto smirks and says, true, I'm also smart, attractive, and well-dressed. Remember to be modest, my love, Kushina exclaims as she enters the kitchen. He smirks and crosses his arms as Kushina returns to the room, yeah, and modest too. She says, Sora, you have to prepare for your mission, and Naruto, you have to prepare to go to the village to take the graduation exam. Both boys sigh, and Sora gets to her feet. All right. Sora heads for the hallway. Good luck on the test, and I'll see you in about a week. He enters his room. He approaches Kushina to say goodbye. Okay mom, I'll see you later, and then he walks to the door and out of the barrier, which breaks behind him. I guess it was created to break when I left again? He thought to himself before entering the village. When he left, he was a shrimp kid who was despised. Now, he returns a 13-year-old teenager who is 5 feet 2 inches, weighs 90 pounds, has a lean build but well-toned, medium-length blonde spiked hair with 2 lightning bolt-shaped bangs, and a tanned face with faded whisker birthmarks. He is wearing black shorts, sandals, a gray vest, and a sleeveless pullover shirt with a high collar. Finally, he wears gray arm and shin guards. His arms are taped off at the wrist and just below the shoulder, and his legs are taped around his calves. A chunin yells, excuse me, Naruto responds, you cannot enter the village without written permission. The chunin looks up and down at Naruto as he explains, but I'm from this village, my cousin Sora Namikaze is a chunin, and I'm Naruto Namikaze and I'm here to take the graduation exam. The child looks familiar, and he smirks, waving off the chunin, who merely stared but sent word to the Hokage. Take it up with the Hokage if you want, in fact I'm on my way there now, he says. It felt strange to walk through the streets of the village that shunned him because, since it had been 6 years since he had been last seen, people assumed he was dead and didn't recognize him. As a result, they were kind and friendly to him, which felt strange. Since no one attempted to stop him from getting to his office, he assumed the Hokage knew he was approaching when he arrived at the tower. The third was sitting in his chair, gazing out the window into the village when he opened the door. He turns around and says, welcome Naruto Uzumaki, or should I say Naruto Namikaze? His eyes enlarge. You've grown, he smiles. With a playful wink, he responds, thanks, you've grown too, only older, and it's Namikaze. His eyes widen as he asks, then I take it you know. How is Kushina? Hiruzen asks, and Naruto nods. It seems your dad didn't tell you what was behind his photo. Hiruzen says, and Naruto recalls leaving the note. Naruto clarified, yeah, the letter just told me to make sure you looked. I guessed. There was a note telling me you left to train with the Namikaze and Uzumaki. Hiruzen continues, and that you would return for the graduation test. Afterward. I do want something explained to me. Why the secrecy? He inquires. I'm not sure. I think my dad wanted me to train away from the village so that people could forget my face and I could blend in. Naruto responds with a shrug. Naruto inquires, but anyway, when is the graduation test? When Hiruzen realizes Naruto has already left, he sighs and turns back to the window, saying, some things will never change. It'll take place in an hour, so you should. In the school, though almost all of the female students are looking at him with hearts in their eyes, a boy with a raven complexion sits in the corner of the room, broodingly staring at the blackboard at the front of the room. One of the few surviving Uchiha is Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka, both of whom belonged to the Yamanaka clan, were friends until they discovered that the other liked Sasuke. From that moment on, they became enemies. The two girls, a pink-haired girl and a long, blonde girl, led the other girls who were staring at Sasuke. Shikamaru Nara, a member of the Nara clan, is sleeping at his seat across the room. Despite his sluggish demeanor, he is a brilliant tactician for his age and smarter than he gives off. He has black hair tied in a spiky ponytail. Beside him, a plump man with red swirl marks on his cheeks was eating potato chips. He is Choji Akamichi, a member of the Akamichi clan. A rough-looking boy named Kiba Inuzuka sat in the row behind him. The other students said that he always smelled like a wet dog. Next to him was a small girl named Hinata Hyuga, who was part of the largest clan in the village, the Hyuga clan, which is known for its dojutsu, the Byakugan. She had blue hair and blue eyes without pupils. And Shino Aburame, a brown-haired boy with black glasses on Kiba's other side, is a total mystery. After reading a letter he recently received from another Chunin, Iruka walks into the classroom and says, interesting. He then shuts the door and says, okay, settle down, class, and the students all take their seats. There are a few gasps as Iruka says, it appears a new student will be taking the graduation test with this group. But Iruka-sensei, if this is his first day, how can he be graduating already? Sakura inquires. We'll wait for him. Iruka says, he was trained privately by his clan, but he needs to pass the academy's test in order to be an active shinobi for the village. As he sits at his desk listening to the whispering in the class, the door suddenly flies open, and the boy yells, "Whatever you say, you old hag," while avoiding a chair. The boys shut the door to silence the woman, but they could still hear her screaming at him. What? He asks as he turns to face the entire class, and the majority of them turn back to their sensei. You understand that it's customary to announce your arrival before barging into a room? Iruka asks the new child, what's your name? The class chuckles as Naruto asks patronizingly, isn't it customary to introduce yourself before asking someone their name? Alright, so I'm Iruka Amino, and I'm your sensei. Iruka says, now, it's your turn. As he approaches the vacant seat next to Sasuke, who merely gives Naruto a sidelong glance, Naruto responds, well, my name is Naruto Namikaze and I'm your student. Sasuke remarks, he looks strong. Good, I could use the completion. There are a few gasps as Iruka says, it appears a new student will be taking the graduation test with this group. But Iruka, sensei, if this is his first day, how can he be graduating already? Sakura inquires. As Iruka sits at his desk listening to the whispering in the class, the door suddenly flies open and the boy yells, whatever you say, you old hag. While avoiding a chair, he was trained privately by his clan, but he needs to pass the academy's test in order to be an active shinobi for the village, Iruka explains. He'll be here shortly, so we'll wait for him. The boys shut the door to silence the woman, but they could still hear her screaming at him. What? He asks as he turns to face the entire class, and the majority of them turn back to their sensei. You understand that it's customary to announce your arrival before barging into a room? Iruka asks the new child, what's your name? Condescendingly crossing his arms, Naruto asks, isn't it customary to introduce yourself before asking someone their name? The class laughs a little. Alright, so I'm Iruka Amino, and I'm your sensei. Iruka says, now, it's your turn. As he approaches the vacant seat next to Sasuke, who merely gives Naruto a sidelong glance, Naruto responds, well, my name is Naruto Namikaze and I'm your student. Sasuke remarks, he looks strong. Good, I could use the completion. Sasuke waits until Iruka has finished one of his lengthy explanations before he speaks to the new man. So you were trained privately? He asks, and Naruto nods. Sasuke's eyes enlarge as Naruto asks, you're a Uchiha, right? I figured you matched the description of one, he adds, making Sasuke smirk a little inquisitively. Sasuke asks with a laugh, oh, what description? Oddly enough, Sasuke laughs when Naruto responds jokingly, oh well, the raven hair for one, the pale skin, and that masterful brooding expression that says, I'm surrounded by idiots that are beneath me. Sasuke grins and Naruto feigns a gasp as he says, an accurate description. Well, I hope to test your capabilities to see if you're worthy. That sounded like a challenge. Naruto smirks and asks, should I feel honored? While feigning shock. In a lightheartedly serious tone, Sasuke responds, definitely, and when it's over and your counting clouds know that Sasuke Uchiha knocked you on your ass, he adds. Naruto responds in the same phony serious tone, and while you strut off victoriously, just know that Naruto Namikaze will be laying on the ground shouting abuse at you, and calling you girls' names. Iruka announces the graduation exam after an hour of instruction, and Naruto breezes through it. The advantage of receiving private instruction is that he doesn't get sidetracked by what the other students write, and he finishes 10 minutes ahead of schedule. As the class gets up and leaves the room, Iruka says, "Okay, you're free to go to the training field for recess until I and the other teachers mark your tests." Beyond the academy, Naruto and Sasuke are competing at different shinobi skills, the first of which is target practice, while the other students in the class have gathered around the kunai practice logs. With 2 shurikens spinning on his left index and middle fingers, Naruto sighs, this seems a little unfair. A competition of aim against an Uchiha. He smirks slightly. While some of his fangirls swoon, Sasuke smirks and says, "Don't back out, not after making a scene in class looking like a big shot." "Oh, you are going down, nursling Uchiha." Naruto swung both shuriken into the black dot in the middle of the target log before flicking his hands. With an air of admiration, Sasuke says, "Not bad, but watch how it's done," he adds, spinning and launching 3 shuriken at the log next to the one Naruto struck, nailing the center with all 3. Sakura and Ino shout together, "Oh yeah, show him who's best." Naruto pulls out a 3-bladed kunai and says, "Nicely done," and with a spin, a bit theatrical for my taste though. Every girl in Sasuke's cheeks turn pink as he laughs, "And I see your cute little fan club all got pregnant from it." "What's with the seal on the handle?" Sasuke asks, gathering his courage as he watches the kunai. "That homemade." Naruto smirks and sends chakra into the blade, then throws it into the log, shattering it and impaling it in a boulder just outside the school grounds. "To answer both your questions, yes, and you'll see when we spar." With his eyes widening a little, Sasuke exclaims, What did you do?" in a tone that borders on demanding. Naruto responds nonchalantly, "I poured my chakra into the kunai before I threw it. And wind is 10 times sharper than steel when focused," he adds, grinning. "My chakra is affinitive to wind and earth." Sasuke says, "Well, it appears that you won this competition. That means you are skilled." "Yeah," Naruto replies, pulling out a second 3-bladed kunai and holding it at eye level. "My skills are honed but imperfect," he says, letting the kunai fall to the ground, which he instantly picks up while holding the kunai he threw earlier. "I can't fully use these in combat," he concludes to a standing astonishment. "Impossible." Sasuke thinks to himself, "I didn't even see him wave any signs," adding, "For an instant he was gone and then back in the blink of an eye." Naruto interrupts Sasuke's thoughts, saying, "Don't waste your time, you won't get it. How about a new challenge?" he asks. "What do you have in mind?" Sasuke inquires. "It'll take Iruka-sensei at least another hour to finish grading the papers," he replies. Naruto says, "How about we do an all-out sparring match?" and Sasuke grins. Sasuke responds, "Sounds like fun. Everyone step back," he tells the others. Sakura says uneasily, But Sasuke, you could get in trouble," as Sasuke looks at her. Sakura joins the others with her head lowered, and Sasuke resentfully remarks, "I never asked for your opinion, Sakura. If I wanted it, I would have asked for it." Even though the purpose of this competition was to see how the new guys stacked up, Naruto doesn't miss how Sasuke seemed to think of himself as superior to everyone else. Naruto smiles and says, "Hey Sasuke, how about a wager?" Sasuke looks interested and says, "If I win, you treat me, and that pretty pink-haired girl and one of her friends to dinner." He grins as he hears some of the girls complain and Sakura gets very red. According to Sasuke, and if I win, even though he is very confident in his skills, the idea of spending even a single moment with any girl in his class made him want something valuable. Holding up his 2 special kunai, Naruto says, "You get these. Trust me when I say it's worth it because these are very handy to have." "Deal?" Sasuke smirks. Although teachers are less strict and students are not allowed to carry weapons as long as they are out of sight, many Chunin have been observing the confrontation between the two. One of the Chunin tells another, "My money is on the Uchiha kid." Iruka approaches them after the other responds, "I don't know, that new kid has some unique aura. I can just tell he's strong. I mean, look at how he can flow his chakra." As he looks out and sees Naruto and Sasuke in battle stances with real kunai, he asks, "What's with all the commotion?" Iruka exclaims, "Are they using real weapons?" The Chunin calmly says, "Calm down, Iruka. If things get out of control, we'll step in. Besides, don't you want to see how this kid stacks up to Sora? They're both Namikaze after all," he adds. Iruka sighs and returns to his seat to continue grading papers. After a brief struggle, Naruto and Sasuke separate, saying, "He's strong," as they both think simultaneously as they charge at each other while the clang of their colliding kunai reverberates. When Sasuke engages, he kicks Naruto in the left side. Naruto raises his arms in defense, but Sasuke spins his attack to the right side by doing a handstand. Too slow Naruto. He smirks, but his kick misses, and in an instant, Naruto is gone again. Naruto, who is standing behind Sasuke, asks, "What was that?" "Slow," he scoffs. Sasuke grins and says, "Okay, let's have a ninjutsu battle. Horse right pointing arrow tiger, 2, or snake right pointing arrow ram or tiger right pointing arrow monkey right pointing arrow boar right pointing arrow horse right pointing arrow tiger." He makes hand seals and takes a deep breath before exhaling, "Fire style, fireball jutsu." Naruto's eyes widen in surprise. With a quick thought, tiger right pointing arrow hare right pointing arrow boar right pointing arrow dog, Naruto puts his palm on the ground and yells, "Earth style, mud wall." A wall appears from beneath him, allowing him to dodge the fireball. Sasuke looks up at Naruto and thinks, "Not bad." He smirks slyly and asks, "What are you going to do from up there?" "Quite a bit," Naruto says. "Rat right pointing arrow rabbit right pointing arrow dog." Naruto exhales, "Wind style, vacuum bullets," and launches a series of tiny wind bursts at Sasuke, who leaps back. Naruto manages to pant Sasuke's shoulder, but Sasuke looks up just in time to avoid an aerial attack. A smirking Naruto leans into his ear, and he stops when he feels the cool metal touch his skin. "You're really good Naruto, but he exclaims. "I won the bet," he says, but he smiles as Sasuke goes pale. "FYI, I like ramen, but you should ask the girls where they'd like to go," he says, winking at Sakura, who turns away in blush. Sakura's inner self leaps for joy when she asks herself, "Should I be happy or sad Sasuke lost?" "Cha. Happy now we get to go on a date with Sasuke. And that new kid is hot himself. Either way we're getting a free meal with 2 hotties." "Cha." Sasuke's laugh interrupts her thoughts. With a glare, Sasuke says, "I gotta admit, I didn't think I'd lose," dusts his hands, and approaches Sakura. "You and your friend will meet us at Ichiraku Ramen," he says in a slightly demanding tone, before turning back to Naruto and grinning, "Good match." The two shake hands. Likewise, Naruto responds, shaking Sasuke's hand. "Man, I got lucky." It might not have seemed like it, but if he had used his Sharingan this might have ended. "So, what other ninjutsu can you do?" Sasuke asks, crossing his arms. "It feels like you were holding back." Naruto smiles and Sasuke shrugs. "I could say the same about you," he continues. "I would use all the ninjutsu I know in a friendly sparring match." Sasuke replies, "Neither would I," and Kiba, Shino, Shikamaru, and Choji all start discussing what they just witnessed. Kiba says, "It's hard to believe Uchiha lost," and Shino nods. "That new guy is strong," he adds, and Shino nods again without saying anything. In his cool, exhausted voice, Shikamaru adds, "True, but I doubt they were going all out. I mean, if the senseis knew about this, then they'd be in trouble." Between bites of his chips, Choji muttered, "I can't see them failing the transformation test either." Shikamaru smirks as he turns to face his longtime friend. When Shino asks out loud in a monochromatic tone, "Still Sasuke, the rookie of the year losing to the new kid, how does that reflect us?" they all start to perspire because they realize it didn't make them look good. After 10 minutes, Iruka shows up and instructs them to line up and return to class. They are each instructed to use the shadow clone and transformation techniques. While some students struggle to execute the techniques, Sasuke, Ino, Kiba, Shikamaru, Choji, Shino, Hinata, and Sakura all execute them flawlessly. When Naruto steps up, he chooses to use the shadow clone first, then change into Iruka and chastise the clone for using the wrong technique in the wrong order. Naruto and the other students all sighed when their names were called after they listed all of the students who had passed. The students who passed pick up a headband as they exit the room after Iruka says, "Okay, collect your headband and you are dismissed, but you will report here tomorrow at noon." Naruto puts his headband in his pocket as Sasuke puts his on his forehead as they leave together. Sasuke asks pleadingly, "So, do I really have to go through with this?" Naruto grins and says, "Of course. But honestly that pink-haired girl is cute, and she clearly likes you," he adds. "Unless of course you're more into guys," he adds, noticing Sasuke's disgusted expression. "Didn't think so." Naruto grins and sees Sakura talking to a blonde girl. "That girl is Ino, right?" he asks, and Sasuke nods. Sasuke sighs, "Great, 2 annoying fangirls to out up with," and he sobs in his head. "The two are best friends, so I shouldn't be surprised she picked her." Sasuke is brought over to the two girls, who gasp as they get closer, by Naruto pulling his sleeve. When Ino smiles and Sasuke gives her a chilly look, she blushes intensely and says, "If he keeps looking at me, I'll melt." HN. Sasuke nods to her, startling both girls. Sakura straightens up as he looks at her. "I guess she'll be the one joining us?" he asks. Sakura nervously responds, "Why?" "Yeah, if that's okay with you, of course. I mean, I can ask someone else," not ignoring the half glare Ino is giving her. Both girls swoon with stars in their eyes as Sasuke shrugs and says, "Whatever, I don't care." He turns to Naruto and says, "See you later," before leaving Naruto with the two girls. At last, Naruto asks, "So Ino, Sakura, can you guys show me where this Ichiraku's place is?" The girls nod and smile. Sakura breaks the silence as they walk in silence, wanting to get to know Naruto. "Sure," they cheer, taking him by the hands and removing him. "So Naruto?" she asks, looking at him and noticing that she is still holding his hand even though Ino's hand had long since released. She blushes a little as she lets go. He says with a kind smile as he looks at her, making her blush. Naruto clears his throat by coughing as Sakura asks, I was wondering what kind of training you got." "Iruka Sensei said you were trained privately by your clan." Naruto says, "All kinds," and the two girls start to perspire at the lack of detail. "I know a lot but I haven't perfected much," he adds. Sakura turns to face the path ahead and says softly, "I see." When Ino says, "I see why you did so well against Sasuke," it's obvious that the young Uchiha prodigy was on her mind. Naruto thinks, "Did so well against? I won," but he smiles and responds, "Thanks, he's a strong opponent." Naruto immediately realizes his error, as praising Sasuke in front of the two made Sakura and Ino swoon, listing all of Sasuke's qualities and how they were meant to be together. This ultimately led to an argument between the two about who loved Sasuke more. As he watches the insults fly back and forth, Naruto smiles awkwardly and says, "I'm in hell. This clearly is hell." When the three of them finally reach Ichiraku Ramen, Naruto puts his head on the frame before bidding farewell and heading out of town to his house. Naruto shouts, "I'm home," and his mother walks in. Kushina greets him with a kiss on the forehead and asks, "Did you have a good day?" Naruto nods. "Yes, I already have a friend named Sasuke," Naruto responds. "And now we're meeting up with two girls from class at a place called Ichiraku Ramen." Kushina's expression shows how shocked she is by how quickly her son can find a girlfriend. With a worried, astonished tone, Kushina says, "I see, I take it you don't need a dinner?" Naruto shakes his head. Naruto runs upstairs to change his clothes and put on an orange t-shirt with the leaf symbol on it, brown shorts, new tape around his calf, and navy sandals. He also applies deodorant. "No thanks, and I won't be back until about 10:30 or so," he says. Taking a picture of Naruto, Kushina smirks and exclaims, "Wow, she must be cute." "My baby's first date," she exclaims joyfully, much to the dismay of an embarrassed Naruto. Naruto screams, Mom," and slams the door as he dashes out. Kushina smiles as she watches him fly to the leaf. As she cleans the rest of the house, she thinks, "Minato, thank you for giving me a wonderful son." Beyond Ichiraku's wearing a dark blue t-shirt with the Uchiha symbol on the back, cream shorts, and black sandals, Sasuke had arrived early with the intention that, the sooner it gets started, the sooner it'll end. Ino arrived first, dressed in a light purple tank top, a tight miniskirt, navy hot pants that hung down to her mid-thighs, a sleeveless fishnet undershirt, and purple sandals. Hey, she calls out to Sasuke, who then glances at her before blushing a little. "What do you think?" she asks with a seductive smile and strikes a sexy pose, which startles Sasuke by making him turn away. "HN," is his response, leaving Ino uncertain about whether he found her appearance appealing. Soon after, Sakura showed up sporting a pair of red strap sandals with a small heel, a pink shirt dress, and thighs-length jean shorts. Sasuke shrugs when she says, "I'm sorry if I'm late. You look nice, Sasuke," she says, but receives no response. "You too, Ino." "Pig," she smirks, and Ino smiles back. Sasuke watches as Ino responds, "You clean up well, billboard brow," and the two engage in a semi-glaring argument. Sasuke sighs, "This is going to suck," and then he spots the blonde demon who brought him into this predicament. When Sasuke half hisses, "You're late," the two girls turn to face Naruto. Sasuke grits his teeth and turns to face the girls. "You two look gorgeous," he says, winking as he sees them blush. Naruto smirks and says, "Sorry, I thought you'd want some alone time with your fan club." Together, they say, T. Thanks Naruto. Naruto exclaims, well, let's go in, I'm starving. And the four enter. The four of them are extremely awkward with one another. Naruto found it hard to strike up a conversation because he didn't know any of them, and Sakura and Ino obviously just wanted to be with Sasuke, and Sasuke. Well, Sasuke wanted to go. Finally breaking the silence, Naruto asks, so, what else is there to do in this village? Placing her index finger on her chin, Sakura responds, well, there are lots of stores and places for adults like sake bars and places to gamble, but not a lot for kids, mainly playgrounds. I see, Naruto responds. So not much to do other than wait to get older so you can drink and gamble, he continues. Sasuke adds, you can always train to hone your skills, while reclining in his chair and crossing his arms after completing his meal. He smirks and says, true, but unlike you, I also like to have fun with cute girls, as Sakura and Ino flush. Sasuke scoffs, crossing his arms, whatever. He adds, sounding irritated, I could be at home training right now, as Naruto dismisses his rage. This is a nice change for me, Ino says. In between helping my mother with the flower shop or learning my clan's mind transfer technique, I really have no free time on my hands, she continues. Sasuke leans forward with genuine interest and asks, are you good at it? Ino's face brightens as he says, I didn't the Yamanaka clan have a mind transfer jutsu? I can freely transfer my mind into anyone's mind, she boasts, but my dad wants me to shorten the time it takes to perform the jutsu, she continues. Then he'll show me the other abilities of my clan's jutsu, she concludes. Sasuke smirks and Ino nods. I see. Well, work hard and you'll get it in no time. Naruto smiles slightly when he sees Sasuke finally break through his shell, but his smile quickly disappears when he sees Sakura's sad expression. Sakura muses, looks like Ino has won Sasuke's interest. She is disappointed that she doesn't come from a clan that specializes in jutsu, which means she may be weaker than Ino. It was terrible to think she would never receive such a response from Sasuke. The remainder of the time passed quickly as Naruto continued to ask the three questions about the village and Sasuke continued to discuss her clan and his desire to train with her in order to test his skills against the mind transfer jutsu, both of which Ino enthusiastically accepted. When Ichiraku's was about to close, the four of them stood outside. Sasuke says, Ino, and she gives him a look. I'm walking you home, he adds. Oh, okay, says Ino, flushed and anxious. Naruto asks himself, is he asking her or telling her? As the two leave him with Sakura. Sakura nods in response to Naruto's question, well, want me to walk you home? She smiles and says, sure, and the two start to walk. I can't believe Sasuke walked Ino home, she sighs sorrowfully, and Naruto laughs, drawing her attention to him. With a sly smile, he adds, it's funny when you think about it. Sasuke was complaining about having to treat us to dinner yet he walked that Ino girl home. He knows that Sasuke's solitary demeanor was a facade. Sakura fakes a smile and says, I guess they have a lot in common since they both come from shinobi clans. Knowing that Ino might have won Sasuke over broke her heart. He seemed interested in her clan's jutsu, she continues. True, Naruto nods. Sasuke's skills demonstrate coming from a strong clan like the Uchiha. He will be a strong ninja, Naruto continues. Sakura asks, how about you? Naruto raises his eyebrows and responds, you come from a clan and you're strong. Naruto smirks and says, now that I think about it, many of the students in our class come from clans. Maybe it was a mistake for me to think I was strong enough to impress Sasuke, she sighs sadly. Naruto puts his hands to the back of his head and stretches them, saying, you should open your eyes and see the world beyond Uchiha. Being a ninja is dangerous, he adds, and she gives him a look that says, I know I'm not stupid. If you want to win Sasuke over, focus on your training. I mean, you saw how he became interested in talking with Ino after she mentioned training, he says. When they arrive at her front door, Naruto has a serious, before I go let me tell you something, statement. Sakura turns to him and asks, what, you mentioned that it might have been a mistake to believe that you were strong enough to impress Sasuke. Naruto starts, well, that's probably true, and Sakura's head sags. Sakura, I can tell after one day of being at the academy that you spend too much time looking like Sasuke and not enough time choosing a path to follow, he explains. Coming from a clan has its advantages but it also has its disadvantages too, he adds, adding, you can decide to follow any path you want without worrying about the clan's reputation. So, he says, placing a hand on Sakura's shoulder, worry less about what Sasuke thinks of you and spend more time thinking about who you are. Sakura blushes as she says, thank you, Naruto. She had never given much thought to what kind of kunoichi she should be or what course she should take. Sakura smirks at him as he says, "No problems. Helping cuties is a privilege to me," he says. She smiles and watches him blush for a change. "Thank you for the motivational talk, and thank you for walking me home," she says, leaning in and kissing his cheek before entering the house. "So you help a lot of girls then?" she asks. No problem," he says, touching his cheek with his fingers before making the ram hand sign and vanishing in a cloud of smoke. In the meantime, after strolling through the deserted streets of the Uchiha compound, Sasuke arrives at his house, which is surprisingly dark. He opens the door and says, he looks around when he hears a noise, but when he turns around, his arm is impaled against the wall and twisted behind his back. With a half smile, Itachi says, "Too slow, little brother. If I were an enemy you would be dead or captured," he says, letting go of Sasuke, who glares. Sasuke rubs his arm and asks, "Where are mom and dad?" Itachi hands him a letter. "Yeah, whatever. To the boys, in 2 weeks, your dad and I will return from our second honeymoon to celebrate our anniversary, so you will also need to shop and prepare meals for yourself. If you get any boo-boos, make sure to keep them so your mother can give them a better kiss. Love, Mom." Handing the letter back to Itachi, Sasuke murmurs, "So irresponsible. Dropping everything and running off for 2 weeks, he adds. Itachi remarks, "You'll understand one day too, when you get a girlfriend." He smirks as he watches Sasuke scoff as he makes his way to his room, saying, "Which from what I saw earlier, it looks like you have." Sasuke stutters, flustered, "That wasn't like that. There was a bet and then I thought it would be dangerous to walk home alone," he adds, gathering his thoughts. "Oh, you walked her home?" Itachi smirks as he passes him and says, "I didn't know that." He then goes into his room, leaving Sasuke, who is red-faced, by himself. As he stomps to his room, he mutters angrily, "BB bastard. I'm happy to see you out of the compound and having fun," Itachi says in his room, grinning. "But tomorrow you begin your training as a full-fledged shinobi," he adds, closing his eyes and going to sleep. As instructed by Iruka Sensei, the newly graduated genin assembled in the room the next morning. Ino, Kiba, Shikamaru, Choji, Shino, Hinata, and Sakura were all present. One of Sasuke's fangirls asks a cornered Ino and Sakura, "So how was your date with Sasuke last night?" The group of girls is definitely not happy about it, and what Ino says now only makes it worse. The girls give Ino a few irate growls when he boasts, "That's right, I talked with Sasuke for a whole hour after you walked me home." Kiba mutters bitterly, "Man. The way they talk, it's like the rest of us aren't worth the dirt Sasuke walks on." Shikamaru's head slowly rises from the sleeping position and turns to face Kiba. Kiba laughs as Shikamaru says, "A woman's mind is a bag of crazy. It'd be troublesome to just open it without thinking." Kiba gives Shikamaru a pat on the back and remarks, "Too true. Even so, the attention Uchiha boy gets can make you feel non-existent," he sighs. Shikamaru yawns and puts his head back on the desk, using his arms as pillows. "As long as that means I get more sleep and less hassle, I'm fine with that." That's Shikamaru for you. He'd rather sleep all day than worry about what girls think of him, Choji says, shoving a handful of chips into his mouth and chewing and swallowing them. He smiles at his best friend. As if on cue, Sasuke walks in the door just before a fight breaks out between the girls, and the three guys don't even turn to see who it is. "Morning, Sasuke," they all yell at once. "HN." He nods, and the squeals grow louder. Naruto enters behind him and removes his fingers from his ears. Naruto murmurs, "Day 2 and I'm already sick of them," and Sasuke smirks as he turns to face him. Sasuke asks, "Now just imagine that every morning since day 1? And Naruto shudders at the idea. As Sasuke coughs to cover his blush, he smirks and leans in to whisper, "Fair enough, though, Ino looks good." Naruto sits next to Sasuke as he walks to an empty seat and says, "I couldn't tell." Ino and Sakura push their way through the girls. Sakura says, "Morning Naruto, morning Sasuke," and Naruto grins as he looks at her. He says, "Morning Sakura," with a smile, and Sasuke nods in response. "Morning Sasuke." Ino gives Sasuke a wink while utterly disregarding Naruto and the disapproving looks from the girls behind her. "HN." Naruto sighs and crosses his arms as Sasuke advances to his seat. As Ino smirks and playfully spits her tongue out at Naruto, Naruto sarcastically approaches his seat and sits down, saying, "Morning to you too, Ino. I'm great, thanks for asking." "Okay, graduates. First off, I want to congratulate all of you for becoming full-fledged shinobi," Iruka says as the other students take their seats. Now all that's left is to pair you off into groups of 3 and assign you to a sensei, he says, drawing a few surprised and irritated looks. Sasuke asks, why are we being paired into teams? Naruto and the others are also irritated, though not as much as the young Uchiha. You are all still genin, Iruka explains, adding, with 0 experience doing missions. He goes on, there are shinobi out there stronger than me, so that's why the 3 genin assigned to a Junin sensei was created. He approaches his desk and says, this way you can gain necessary experience without facing tremendous danger. He puts a sheet of paper down and adds, but that doesn't mean being a shinobi is easy. He sounds more serious, saying, remember everything the Junin says. Iruka yells, Shikamaru wake up, and the spiky ponytail boy gingerly wakes up. Anyway, I will now pair you off into your teams and tell you where to meet your Junin sensei after the teams have been announced. Stand up when I call your name, he says. First off team 10 inches he says, coughing to clear his throat, Shoji Akamichi. The plump boy stands up, Shikamaru Nara, and Shoji smiles, staring at his unconscious friend. What a drag, he murmurs as he gets to his feet, observing Shoji standing there grinning broadly, while some genin giggle at Shikamaru's sloth. And finally, Ino Yamanaka, Iruka says, and the gorgeous blonde stands up and whimpers. She crosses her arms and murmurs, great, I got the lazy boy and the chubby sidekick. Team 8 is up next. Iruka says, the first member is Shino Aburame. The boy with the glasses gets up and says, next Hinata Hyuga. The shy girl gets up and says, and finally Kiba Inuzuka. Iruka finishes, and the disheveled boy with the brown hair gets up while looking at the other 2 members of his team. Naruto murmurs softly, interesting, but Sasuke turns to face him. Naruto looks at Sasuke as he leans closer and whispers, what do you mean? Sasuke starts to reflect after Naruto concludes, well, a Hyuga, Aburame, and Inuzuka on the same team. He adds, each of those clans have unique traits that help in tracking and locating. So maybe there is more to these teams than is being let on. Iruka glances at the names of Team 7, Rewind, the Hokage Tower. Lord Hokage, are you sure that putting these 3 together is fair? Iruka inquires. I mean the top male and female graduates on the same team will make them look like they are getting special treatment. He replies. And the new student while a loud mouth is clearly smarter than he lets on. Iruka, Team 10 is the next generation of Ino. Shika.cho. The Hokage responds. Like their parents requested there to be on the same team to continue the tradition. He goes on, Team 8 will be a tracking specialty team designed to scout the areas ahead and keep others prepared. He keeps going. And Team 7. Sasuke needs a rivalry. Naruto is a Namikaze. His abilities are rare and will help improve Sasuke's abilities and vice versa. He forgets that Iruka is about to speak. And, what about Sakura Haruno? Iruka asks, expressing his admiration for the teen with the pink hair. She exhibits great intelligence and a sophisticated skill in chakra control when she isn't swooning over Sasuke. While I agree with you on her intelligence, she lacks any unique trait that makes her an individual kunoichi. Hiruzen clarifies. Every student named has both the basic academy training and a clan-specialized jutsu. Adds, while Sakura is not from a shinobi clan, she has shown no signs of wanting to define herself and believes the basics will be enough to get her through missions, but they won't. I see, so you think 2 alpha male-like personalities like Sasuke and Naruto's will show her there is more to being a shinobi and kunoichi than just the basics. Hiruzen responds with a nod. The flashback has ended. As the class turns to watch the young Uchiha stand up, Iruka declares, Team 7, first Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke looks at the blonde Namikaze next to him and muses, there's only one person I want on my team. Iruka says, second, Sakura Haruno, and Sakura leaps up joyfully as several girls, including Ino, glare at her. And, Naruto Namikaze. He concludes, observing the other students' shocked looks as Naruto carefully gets to his feet. Shikamaru remarks, I hope they don't plan to pit us against them for mission rights, because he believes that the 2 are on the same team. Good. Even if I have to put up with Sakura will be worth it to have Naruto there, I'll surpass the all Uchiha. Even Itachi. Sasuke grumbles. Team 7 was instructed to meet their sensei on the academy's roof after pairings were complete. Sakura wonders out loud as she watches Naruto and Sasuke strolling up the academy's stairs, I wonder what our sensei will be like. Naruto looks over his shoulder and says, who cares? As long as we get some good missions out of him, and Sasuke nods. When they reach the roof, no one is there. Naruto shrugs and says, mustn't be here. They locate a bench with a bin full of cigarette butts, and Sasuke says, we wait, in an authoritative tone. Junin sensei and the three young genin were growing impatient after an hour had passed with no sign of this. This is ridiculous. Naruto paced around as Sakura and Sasuke sat on the bench. Sakura stared at her feet, occasionally glancing at the blonde, while Sasuke was deep in thought. After another 20 minutes, a puff of smoke appears at random. A man with gray hair who has 90% of his face covered is standing in front of them when it disperses. He looks at his new genin students and says, "I apologize if I kept you waiting too long." He scratches the back of his head and says, "I was lost on the path of life and well here I am now." Whatever. The three states want to start training or missions. Sakura raises her hand as Kakashi says, "First things first, introductions." He continues, "Tell me your names and a little bit about yourselves." Kakashi nods in agreement as she suggests, "Why don't you go first so we get what you had in mind?" The three genin perspire at the final remark, "I have things I like, and things I dislike, both of which are none of your concern." He pauses, then says, "Well, my name is Kakashi Hitaki." He introduces himself, saying, "I am a Junin of this village, obviously." The three genin exchange a look that suggests, "Is this guy for real? And I have no immediate goals." He concludes, "Okay, you first," he says, gesturing to Sakura. "All right," she says, introducing herself as Sakura Haruno. "I like a certain someone and hope to prove myself to him," she says, looking at Sasuke. "I like trivia games and my favorite foods are syrup, coated anko dumplings, umeboshi, and anmitsu. And I hate spicy food," she adds. "My goal is to become a top kunoichi of the village," she concludes. "All right," says Kakashi, turning to face Sasuke. "Your turn." He gestures toward the youthful Uchiha. He introduces himself as Sasuke Uchiha and states in a chilly manner, "There are a lot of things that irritate me and a few that I like. My goal is to surpass all Uchiha and become the commander of the Konoha police force," he concludes. "Okay, and you?" He gestures to Naruto, and when he looks at Naruto, he can't help but think of his former mentor Minato. He smirks and says, "My name is Naruto Namikaze." He looks at Sakura, who blushes and looks away. "My goal? Well, I don't know, to be strong I guess." He shrugs and concludes, "I don't really think that far ahead." After saying, "Okay, so we have been given Area 7 as our new training ground," Kakashi stops observing his students' shocked expressions and says, "Tomorrow you will take the final test to decide if you are ready to be genin." Sakura asks, "Kakashi Sensei, what do you mean? I thought the graduation exam was the final test." Kakashi laughs. "That was to see whether you had the intelligence to be genin." Kakashi starts, "The test tomorrow will decide if you have the skill to take on missions." He continues, "Pass and you can call yourself shinobi. Fail and you will be sent back to the academy for another year," he concludes. As he is about to leave, he says, "Now spend the rest of the day getting ready and meet me at Team 7's training ground at dawn. Oh, and don't eat anything for breakfast because you will probably get sick during the test," he says before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Sasuke turns to face his two teammates as the three leave the academy and pause at the gate. He says, "I'm going home to train," and then he leaves Sakura and Naruto alone, saying, "I'll see you tomorrow." Sakura says, "So Naruto?" Naruto turns to face her and asks, "Do you think we can pass?" Naruto smirks. Naruto responds, "I know we can pass," pats her on the shoulder, and says, "Just believe in yourself, beautiful." He then leaves the blushing girl alone. "It's not about what I think, it's what I know," he says. At the Uchiha compound later, "It's a good thing I'm on Naruto's team," Sasuke thinks as he parries Itachi's punches. "But Sakura, she'll hold us back," he thinks, knowing that she has nothing to offer but her intelligence, but against a more experienced mind like Kakashi, she was useless, and jutsu was the only thing they needed to pass. Sasuke and Itachi were sparring because their parents were away and he needed to study for this test Kakashi Sensei had prepared. Itachi grabs Sasuke's arms and pulls him closer before tossing him over his shoulder and onto the ground, saying, "You seem distracted, brother. And that can cost you in a battle. Clear your mind of everything except the task at hand," he adds. Sasuke says, "Okay," again, and assumes a fighting stance before lunging toward Itachi. In the meantime, Sakura was looking through books on jutsu in an attempt to determine the nature of her chakras. She smirks as she looks at an instruction book that shows the hand seals needed to perform a lightning jutsu, but nothing happens. "So maybe I'm a water user," she thinks out loud, flipping the page and attempting to perform a water-style jutsu, but again nothing happens. If I remember correctly, Sasuke's chakra nature is fire while Naruto has two chakra natures, wind and earth. She sighs, "This is harder than I thought." She shuts the book and places it on her desk when she hears her mother shout, "Sakura, dinner, from downstairs. As she exits her room and heads for the bathroom, Sakura exclaims, "I'll be right down." She looks in the mirror and wonders what her teammates are doing. "I hope Naruto and Sasuke don't fail because of me," she says. In the meantime, looking at the Thunder God Kunai, Naruto smirks as he sits on his room's floor with all of his ninja tools spread out on the floor. Paper bombs, smoke pellets, shuriken, kunai, and of course. "What a fine shinobi you'll make," Kushina says, smiling at her son as she peeks in and turns to go to the kitchen. Dawn's subsequent morning, the glow at the horizon indicates that daylight is approaching when Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura arrive at the training grounds a few minutes before dawn. Naruto asks, "So are you two ready?" Sasuke nods and turns to face Sakura, who appears uncertain. "Sakura?" he asks, and she smiles. "Don't worry about me," she says, nervously waving her hands up. Sasuke asks the two, "So any ideas about what this test will be?" Sakura shrugs. Sasuke concurs with Naruto's statement that, "Well, if it's a test of ability, then I'd say we have to defeat Kakashi Sensei in combat," but Sakura questions whether it's really that easy. After an hour and a half, the sun has risen and Kakashi is no longer visible. They see Kakashi coming. "Late again," Sasuke murmurs angrily. "Is this common for him?" he asks. "Or is he testing our patience?" He adds. "You're late," exclaim the three. Although the three can see right through Kakashi's bald-faced lie, he defends it by saying, "Sorry, but you see, there was this cat and it was stuck in a tree, so I decided to help. In any case, since you're so eager to get started, let me explain the rules," he says, pulling out two bells. "The objective is simple," he says, dangling the bells at the three of his students. "You must take a bell off me," he adds. "Do that and you pass." As Kakashi fastens the bells to his belt, Sakura remarks, "But Kakashi Sensei, there are only two bells." Sakura's eyes enlarge as Kakashi says, "Exactly, this means at least one of you will fail. Of course, if none of you have obtained a bell before noon, then you all fail," he continues, and Sakura's eyes enlarge as well. Kakashi looks at Naruto as he asks, "So what is the point of pairing us off into groups of three if only two of us can pass?" "Simple, if there were only two of you here with two bell, you would be less worried about failing," Kakashi starts. "But since there are three of you, there is a guarantee that one of you will fail, which means you will have to work extra hard if you want to pass," he concludes. "Now enough explanations, let's begin. Oh, but make sure to attack me with an intent on killing me, otherwise you won't stand a chance of passing," he warns them. The three split off to devise a strategy. Naruto pulls out his three-bladed kunai, thinking, "If I can place a seal on him, then I can flash behind him and grab a bell before he even notices." Sasuke believes he will activate his family's bloodline, the Sharingan, and attack him head-on. Sakura holds a smoke pellet and muses, "My best chance is to hope Naruto and Sasuke can distract him long enough so I can swoop in and take a bell. They are being patient while scoping me out, coming up with strategies best suited to their own methods," Kakashi says as he stands reading a book, sounding impressed. However, as he jumps up over them and hears the sound of multiple shurikens slicing through the air towards him, he notices Sasuke's foot swinging towards his head. "Fast," is what Kakashi says, but he blocks the attack. Sasuke lands on his hands, spinning his hip, which forces Kakashi to grab his free leg. Knowing that Kakashi's hands are too busy to use his legs to fend off his attempt to grab a bell, Sasuke leaps up to grab one. But Kakashi uses his momentum to throw him up into the air before kicking him, sending him flying back into a tree. Kakashi commends the youthful Uchiha, saying, "Excellent work, Sasuke. You came close on your first try." "My turn." Naruto scatters numerous Thunder God kunai around the area after he believes that launching several smoke bombs will block Kakashi's vision. He can't help but admire Naruto's thinking as he holds his arms up in a defective stance and says, "Clever, he's using the smoke to hide his true attack." So far I am confident that both Naruto and Sasuke have what it takes to become the most powerful shinobi in the village. He focuses as he sees a constant string of yellow flashes, and his eyes widen as he recognizes the kunai that have been scattered all around him. In an attempt to perplex him, Naruto keeps teleporting. With no sign of the pink-haired girl, Naruto thinks, "Come on Sakura, now's your chance." He lunges at Kakashi but teleports before reaching him and charging at various angles in an attempt to exhaust him. "Nice try," says Kakashi, as a huge wall with dogs on it appears all around him. Tiger, right pointing arrow. Hare, right pointing arrow. Boar, right pointing arrow. Dog, Earth-style mud wall. Kakashi yells. Knowing Kakashi's scheme, Naruto glares and stops teleporting, jumping up to land on the wall. Snake. right pointing arrow. With demonic illusion. Death mirage jutsu. Let's see how he handles genjutsu, Kakashi muses. He sees that he has been covered in leaves as he lands, but they quickly blow away. He then looks down into the hole and sees that Kakashi has vanished. He must have used another jutsu. He looks around seeing nothing. Soon he hears Sakura scream and he head towards her in a panic. His eyes widen as he sees her impaled to a tree. Sakura, he shouts but is quickly unconscious. It's good he worries for his teammate, or maybe he has a crush. Believes, speaking of which, I wonder where she is, he reflects. We can't beat him alone. Sakura whispers to Sasuke, who looks at her almost insulted. I mean, if we could then why would we need him? She asks, adding, I think there is more to this test than he lets on. Sasuke responds, I suppose you might be correct. However, if we must cooperate, Naruto is necessary. Are you able to entice Kakashi to leave while I retrieve Naruto? Sakura asks and Sasuke nods. He runs on ahead, forming a shadow clone who runs toward the lake, catching Kakashi's attention. Sakura manages to lift Naruto up despite him being heavy and carries him towards the bush. Gently placing him down, she shakes him awake. Hey Naruto. What? Naruto's eyes look up to see the smile face of Sakura. Sakura. He leaps up and gives her a hug, making her flush. I thought you were dead, he murmurs, sounding both relieved and afraid. She raises her arms and gives him a hug in return. After learning that Naruto's weakness was genjutsu, she responds, I'm fine, Naruto, it was only genjutsu, and they break the embrace. Anyway, Sasuke and I think that this test is a test in teamwork, she says. Naruto crosses his arms and says, I suppose that makes sense. So, any plans? She nods and leans in to whisper as he asks. Kakashi, meanwhile, pursued Sasuke and his clone. Come on Sakura, because he believed that Kakashi would soon catch up to him. As he pretended not to see Sakura take Naruto away, Kakashi thinks, I wonder what they're up to. He hopes they're carrying out his suspicions. Hopefully Naruto is up and filled in, Sasuke thinks as he reaches the spot where Naruto scattered the kunai at the beginning of his attack. He turns to face Kakashi. Tiger. Right pointing arrow. Monkey. Right pointing arrow. Boar. Right pointing arrow. Horse. Right pointing arrow. Tiger, and takes a deep breath. Fire style. Jutsu fireball. He lets out a huge ball of fire. Kakashi's eyes widened as he was taken aback by a genin's powerful jutsu, but it wasn't over yet because Naruto appeared with a yellow flash. Breathing in the form of the hand signals. Wind style. Rat. Right pointing arrow. Rabbit. Right pointing arrow. Dog vacuum bullets. As Naruto exhales, a number of tiny spheres fly into Sasuke's fireball, increasing the flame's temperature and velocity. Impressive, you two work well, Kakashi says, and I guess that means Sakura was the weak. He feels a hand grab the bells. What the? He jumps up. Damn, I didn't think they'd go this far, luring me towards Naruto's kunai, then combining jutsu to make a powerful combo. Kakashi considers jumping to the side to dodge, but then he sees Naruto waiting to get the bell, so he adjusts, jumping backwards. As Kakashi lands and watches the three genin run up and celebrate with high fives, Sakura yells, got him, while holding up the bells. Nicely done, beautiful, Naruto says as he puts his arm around Sakura's neck, but this time she doesn't flush. Thanks, she says with a smile as she looks at Sasuke, who grins slightly at her. Under his mask, Kakashi smiles and says, well, what can I say? Congratulations, you all passed. So, which of you figured it out? He asks. He inquires as to which person successfully completed the tests using the goal. Naruto says, that honor belongs to Sakura. Kakashi. Sensei, if it weren't for her, Sasuke and I would have continued attacking you alone, he continues, giving Sakura a shoulder pat. Yeah, Sasuke looks away in embarrassment. He used to think Sakura was the team's weak point, but after this, he realized that being a shinobi involved more than just jutsu. Although she appreciates the compliments, she acknowledges that she is the weak link if it came down to strength. Thanks, but in truth I know I'm not at Naruto and Sasuke's level, she says. Anyway, I'm proud of you all, Kakashi says. Go eat something and rest for the rest of the day. Tomorrow we will be taking missions as Team 7, he says, dismissing them. The three nod and leave. Sasuke waves them away, leaving Naruto and Sakura alone. See y'all later. Well done, Sakura. Naruto puts his hand on her shoulder and says, I could learn a lot from you. He adds, and as far as you not being on the same level as me and Sasuke, I think of you as my equal. Naruto smiles and says, you showed that brains are just as important as brawn. Placing her hand over Naruto's hand on her shoulder, she smiles and says, "I could say the same about you. Do you think we could train together?" With sweetness, she asks. Sakura walks back to the village, giddy and proud, after he agrees that it's a date, and takes his hand off of her. In Kakashi's house. "I wonder," Kakashi said as he walked slowly into the well-lit room. He stopped hearing a giggle and a shush sound and looked around, seeing a pair of tiny feet hidden behind a curtain. "I guess nobody's home," he said loudly, causing more giggles to come from the tiny figure hiding behind the curtain. He sat down on the sofa and said, "Guess I'll take a nap." He closed his eyes and grinned as he heard the soft creak noise coming from the floor as the tiny figure toed closer. Kakashi then appeared, grabbing the tiny person, saying, "Got ya." He laughs while keeping the young girl with the brown hair and the onyx eyes closed. He then starts to tickle her with tickle style 1000 tickles of torture, acting as though he is using jutsu. "Daddy." A woman and a young boy with brown hair and onyx eyes enter, and the girl tries to escape while laughing hysterically. The woman greets him as, "Welcome home, darling," and Kakashi gets up to approach her while lowering his mask. As the young girl tries to get down, Kakashi places her on the ground and kneels down, saying, "Nice try, hero." He kisses her forehead and asks, "Obito, how did it go?" He asks the boy. "Excellent. I passed the entrance exams," Obito declares, grinning, "and I start at the academy in 3 months." "Excellent work," he says, turning to face his daughter, who beams broadly. "Both of you," he says, patting them on the head. "How about we go out and celebrate?" He makes a suggestion, and the children nod in agreement. "Go upstairs and get cleaned up," he says, and the 2 kids quickly leave the room. "How did they fare, then?" Rin inquires about Kakashi's new squad. He confesses, "Better than I ever could have imagined. And Naruto really is like his father. And our sensei lives on in his son." He smiles. "And I look forward to training them all." To wait for the twins, he and Rin enter the kitchen. The week after the bell test, which Team 7 passed, they started taking missions and earning their wages, but to the 3 genin, these missions were nothing more than glorified chores. Naruto and Sasuke found them so easy that they could complete 4 missions in an hour, but the pay was terrible and none of their academy training helped. The most recent mission required them to hunt a rich woman's prized cat, which was annoying even though the money was better than any of the other mission options. Emo.Kid to Hot. "Genin? You read, Emo.Kid?" Kakashi observes them all from a distance as Naruto talks into an earpiece concealed behind a tree. Sasuke looks down from a roof and responds, "Strongest. Genin here, I read you loudmouth. Blonde," while Kakashi sighs as he observes them. This is getting out of hand, and rather petty, Kakashi thinks as he sits down. All he has had to do is watch from the sidelines. The bell test was designed to help him test their abilities and teamwork, and he discovered that both Sasuke and Naruto are at least at a Chunin level, while Sakura's abilities didn't show other than her intelligence. Both of them helped each other out as rivals, and they could easily handle any C-ranked mission and some B-ranked missions, but Sakura wasn't ready. He knew he needed to pull her aside and focus on her if she was to keep up with her teammates. Of course, each of them had flaws. Sasuke simply wanted new jutsu, and Sakura was too busy staring at him. Naturally, Naruto didn't take anything seriously, and he flirted with every girl he passed without fail, including Sakura, which was another reason he needed to train her alone so the other 2 wouldn't distract her. Foxy. Blonde to goth. Man. Na 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 na. Are you looking at the target? Sasuke grunts angrily as Naruto asks. Sasuke responds, "Yes, it's heading north toward the trees from where you are." He decides it's best to finish this mission so they can move on to the next one and possibly get a real mission for once. As Sakura spits water out of her mouth, Naruto nods and says, "Copy that. It's coming your way, Pink." Hottie. Naruto smiles, obviously catching her drinking. Sakura regains her composure and says, "I'll lead it back and then you grab it." Then she hears bushes rustling and a black ball shoot out towards her. She jumps out, startling the creature, which causes it to run back and collide with Naruto, who captures it in an animal carrier. When Naruto hears the cat hissing inside, he shuts the door and says, "And we are done." "Sorry, Fuzzball, but you have a date with a fat lady," he smirks, and the cat gives him a glare. Sakura mocks him, saying, "Don't tease the cat, Naruto." He simply smiles, and she can't help but smile back because it's so infectious. Sakura blushes and Naruto glares at Sasuke as he says, "If you two are done making kissy faces, let's go report back to the Hokage." In front of everyone, Kakashi leaps down and says, "Agreed. Good work," he adds, and he leads his small group of misfits back towards the Hokage Tower, where Madame Shijimi was waiting. Team 7 arrives and hands the carrier to the cat's owner, who opens the door and embraces the cat. "Toru, my love, I was so worried about you." As the cat fights for its life, Madame Shijimi gives it a swinging hug. The three Genin and Kakashi think, "Poor cat," at the same time, and they both perspire. The woman then puts the money on the Hokage's table, and he picks it up and gives half of it to Kakashi, who divides it into thirds. Hiruzen remarks, "Well done, Team 7. I have some more D-ranked missions for you," he says, observing the three disinterested expressions. "What, tired already?" he teases. Sasuke nods, thinking he could do it too, while Naruto scoffs, "Please, I could do all these lame-ass missions alone and not get tired." Hiruzen says, "Well, you three are only Genin, and Sasuke and Naruto give him a so what look." Sakura, who has been practicing her jutsu at home but hasn't been able to determine the nature of her chakra, simply reads the missions in the hopes that no one will ask her opinion. Naruto crosses his arms and says, "Come on, we are more than normal Genin. How do you expect us to improve if you don't challenge us?" he continues. Sasuke crosses his arms and says, "It's a joke to call these chores missions." The Hokage sighs and looks at Kakashi, who shrugs. "I agree, when I went to the academy to become a shinobi, the last thing I expected was that babysitting, gardening, and walking pets would be missions for a shinobi." Hiruzen says, "How about this?" And the two young men give him a hopeful look. "If Kakashi thinks you're ready, I'll give you a C-ranked mission in 2 days, he says, and Naruto and Sasuke give Kakashi, "You better say yes." Looks. "For now, I need a private word with Kakashi," he says, dismissing the Genin. "Does Het Sakura want to go get something to eat?" Sakura nods as Naruto asks. "May I ask you a question regarding your training?" Sakura asks, and Naruto nods in surprise, which piques Sasuke's curiosity. He suggests that, "I could eat too," and Naruto grins at him. "So I guess I'll tag along and give you some pointers as well, Sakura," he continues, and her eyes enlarge. "Thank you, Sasuke," she says with a joyful smile, and the three leave, leaving Kakashi and Hiruzen by themselves. Kakashi is a little taken aback by their performance, saying, "They must think I'm an idiot," and he sighs, knowing that they are lying to obtain better missions. So, is Kakashi what the boys really are? What about Sakura? Do you think she can manage a C-ranked mission? Hiruzen asks, and Kakashi nods. "May I ask?" he asks. Kakashi sighs, "Honestly, no," he adds, "I'll think of something," but he shrugs, "But if I deny them this opportunity it'll crush morale." He looks out the window, and he says, "But if I rush and they really aren't ready then I could get them killed." His uncertainty shows that he is unsure of what to do. He pulls a book from his desk and says, "They're your Genin, Kakashi. Perhaps Miss Haruno could benefit from it," he adds, and Kakashi acknowledges. Kakashi bows and says, "Thank you, Lord Hokage," before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. In the meantime, as Team 7 eats their first meal of the day inside Ichiraku Ramen, they are disheartened by the pathetic missions they were given and question whether what they believe a shinobi is worth remaining as one. "Itachi was in Anbu doing covert operations when he was my age," Sasuke explains angrily, recalling all the stories Itachi had told him. "And they have me babysitting, grocery shopping, and walking pets?" He challenges the system's reasoning. Recalling all of his father's stories, Naruto says, "I know how you feel." He drinks some of his ramen soup and remarks, "But hopefully Kakashi-sensei can convince the old man to give us a chance." Naruto turns to face her, and Sasuke does the same. Sakura sat quietly and watched her two teammates talk about their feelings as shinobi. Unlike the two boys, Sakura was relieved that the missions weren't dangerous because, unlike Naruto and Sasuke, she doesn't have much to defend herself other than good chakra control. "Sakura, what are your thoughts?" She starts to feel her heart rate rise as Naruto asks. As Naruto nods, Sakura trembles. "I guess we're not ready if they give us a harder mission, but if they do, then we're ready." Sasuke laughs and says, "Maybe you aren't ready. What can you do?" he asks, and Sakura goes pale. "I mean, if Ino or someone like her were on our team, we'd be fine, but the Hokage is making me and Naruto suffer until you realize you weren't cut out to be a kunoichi because he knows you'll die in an actual mission," he concludes. Naruto couldn't help but agree with some of Sasuke's statements as he sat in silence and watched him destroy Sakura's confidence. She was intelligent and had excellent chakra control, but she lacked any jutsu to aid her in combat. Of course, that didn't mean he thought she was worthless. He just saw her as a helpless blank slate in need of a mentor. I have to go and meet someone," Sakura said quietly as she got up and fled the restaurant, not wanting to give Sasuke the satisfaction of witnessing her sob. What is the matter with you? You know Sakura takes everything you say to heart, Naruto says angrily as he turns to face Sasuke. He adds, his voice rising. Though he feels he may have been a bit too harsh on Sakura, Sasuke says calmly, it'll be a good lesson for her. She needs to see that she isn't cut out for this lifestyle the way she is now. He continues, I mean, name one thing she can contribute to our growth. He asks, and Naruto looks puzzled, unsure of how to respond. See, he concludes, you hate it and don't want to admit it, but you know I am right. Naruto's puzzled expression turns into one of confidence. Do you think I'm trustworthy? Sasuke nods in confusion as Naruto asks, with your life? Sasuke's eyes enlarge as he continues, could I put my life in your hands? Naruto inquires. What are you trying to say? Sasuke nervously inquires, unsure of the source of this. Naruto starts, me, you, and Sakura are a team. He goes on, we each need to put the team ahead of our individual goals. As long as we act independently, we won't survive higher ranked missions or progress to higher ranking shinobi, he says with a sigh. So, can I trust you with my life? Again, he asks. He is on a team with two people he hardly knows, and he needs to have complete faith in them and trust them with his life, and vice versa. Sasuke cannot respond. His entire purpose as a shinobi was to outperform everyone else in his clan and nothing else. He gets up without saying another word and leaves to gather his thoughts. Having watched the entire event from outside, Kakashi couldn't help but notice Minato in Naruto. He takes after his father, he muses. Now to find Sakura, he adds, vanishing in a cloud of smoke. Alongside Sakura, what if I am actually holding them back to the point they suffer for my incompetence? Sakura sits by the lake in Team 7's training ground, staring at her reflection of the water. Her green eyes, pink hair, and cream skin were all the same gray color, and after hearing Sasuke explain what he did, she couldn't help but feel bland because everyone else had something that made them unique, but she was gray, an ugly gray. She asks herself, feeling as though tears are about to fall out. Perhaps I should just give up, she muses. Sakura screams and leaps to her feet as Kakashi's shadow appears in the lake. I've been looking everywhere for you, he says calmly. Why? Nervously, Sakura asks, shouldn't you be training Naruto or Sasuke? She asks inquisitively. So while I think Naruto and Sasuke can handle themselves, I feel you need a little one-on-one time, Kakashi says, attempting to avoid giving the impression that she was holding Naruto and Sasuke back, but Sasuke had already made it painfully clear. Well, if we plan on getting a higher ranked mission we need to have all three of you prepared. Sakura sadly looks away, feeling a little pitiful. I see, so, what did you have in mind? As she watches Kakashi search through a bag he brought and then take out a book, she asks. Kakashi gives her the book, Beginner's Guide to Medical Ninjutsu, and says, I have a feeling you are destined to follow a different path than Naruto and Sasuke. Medical Ninjutsu? Sakura glances at the book before turning back to Kakashi. She had never considered pursuing a career in medicine. You see, Sakura, Naruto and Sasuke are combat shinobi. You on the other hand have great chakra control, intelligence and patience. Kakashi clarifies. But you haven't anything to offer the team trying to be like Naruto and Sasuke. He keeps going. You remind me of someone. Under his mask he smiles. That's why becoming a medic is the perfect role for you. He continues. With it you can keep Sasuke and Naruto alive without slowing them down trying to fight like them. He concludes. Kakashi nods as Sakura remarks, but how can I learn? I mean, I know you don't have any medical ninjutsu, she says. Kakashi smirks and says, read the book I gave you until then. Sakura opens the book and starts reading, and after half an hour Rin and the twins arrive. True, but I have the perfect sensei in mind for you and she should be here soon. Sakura looks up at the new woman as the gentle voice says, sorry to keep you waiting. Is your name my new sensei? Sakura inquires, and Rin chuckles a little at being referred to as a sensei. Yes, I am, Rin says with a warm smile. My name is Rin Hitaki, she says, and Sakura's eyes enlarge. You're the wife of Kakashi sensei's? Sakura asks, and Rin nods. And these, she says, glancing at the twins. The little girl rushes towards Sakura, while the little boy hides behind his mother, blushing. Your hair looks so adorable, Hiro exclaims. Can I have pink hair, mommy? With puppy dog eyes, she asks. As Hiro pouts, Rin says, maybe when you're older dear. Rin brings the boy out to the front and says, introduce yourselves. My name is Hiro. Hiro waves before running over to her father who had fallen asleep in the shade of the trees. Daddy. by landing on Kakashi's stomach and causing his eyes to pop open. She wakes him up the hard way. Sakura smiles at the young girl's behavior, but she turns to face the young boy who is slowly approaching her. He smiles broadly, blushes, and nervously extends his hand. "Oh. Obito, my name is Obito," he says. After saying, "I Sakura," and shaking the boy's hand, Obito rushes to his father and sister, leaving Sakura and Rin by themselves. "So, Sakura, are you prepared for the challenge of working as a medic?" Sakura nods as Rin asks. Sakura sounds confident as she says, "I am. I want to help my teammates and I guess this is the best way." Rin leads Sakura away toward the hospital after saying, "Good, let's not waste time then," so she can demonstrate to Sakura what she was in for in terms of training. In the meantime, Sasuke is currently practicing taijutsu in the Uchiha compound by combining punches and kicks against a dented tree stump. Itachi is watching from the patio outside the kitchen door. He can't stop replaying what Naruto said to him. Could I trust him with my life? He wonders. He has never been in that kind of situation, but he knows that a day will come when he might have to decide if he dies so others can live. It is one of the expected things that comes with being a shinobi, to risk your life for your comrade and the mission. Could I make that decision? Die for Naruto and Sakura? Maybe, he muses, to die for Naruto, but for Sakura? It would be useless to save her life. She would most likely be to blame for the dire circumstances, and I should perish as a result. Why should I even be on a team? He asks, his punches getting harder and harder until blood drips from his knuckle cuts. His knuckles are raw and there is more blood visible now. He tries to punch harder, but Itachi grabs his wrist. Itachi went right into Anbu and I am just as good as he was at this stage, he wonders. Itachi says, "I think you won, little brother." Sasuke looks at him bewildered and asks him to look at his hands. When he sees the damage he has caused, Sasuke's eyes widen. Either the tree stump has done something to offend you or, he gently releases Sasuke's wrist. Or you have something on your mind. He smiles like a brother and says, "Come on, I'll clean your wounds while you tell me what's bothering you." He then leads Sasuke to the house. Sasuke sits on the patio step and says, "Well, I told you about how I've been paired into a team with 2 people from my class." Itachi nods. "Well, the girl." He concludes, "I think Sakura is holding the team back because she doesn't have any ninjutsu or genjutsu and her body isn't built for taijutsu." Itachi pulls out a first aid kit, fills a basin with water, and places it next to Sasuke before sitting down so the basin is between them. He dips a rag into the water and runs it gently over Sasuke's knuckles, making him wince. "What does your other teammate think?" he asks. Itachi queries. Sasuke looks away, recalling Naruto's statement, "I think he wants to help Sakura." He says in a softer tone, "But Naruto thinks with his penis, so I wouldn't be surprised if he only wanted to help because he wants to be her boyfriend." He scoffs, attempting to shift the blame to Naruto. "So you don't think she's attractive and you don't want to help her?" When Sasuke looks away and blushes, Itachi smirks and asks, "What was that blonde girl you walked home with the other day?" "I think you should help her," he asks, his smile widening as he watches Sasuke's entire face turn red. "I think you should help her," he says, wrapping Sasuke's hands in bandages as Sasuke looks off into the distance. Itachi breaks the silence, and Sasuke looks at him. "When I graduated from the academy I went straight into Anbu and lost contact with my academy friends." He explains, "You have a great opportunity to get stronger and forge bonds that will last a lifetime. Don't be like me, Sasuke," he adds, prodding Sasuke's forehead. "Otherwise you can never surpass me." He finishes picking up the basin of dirty water and pours it down the drain before leaving Sasuke to his thoughts. He gets up and leaves the compound, grinning a little as he enters the village. In the meantime, Sakura was brought back to Team 7's training ground by Rin, where she saw a mini Minato playing shogi with Obito. He was losing badly to Obito, and his face was plastered with anger as the twins giggled uncontrollably. Kakashi was in the same spot as when they left, but he was reading his perverted book. When they started Sakura's training, they placed all the sealing scrolls they had gathered. Rin says, "This should do for a good spot," and Naruto and the twins give her a look. "Mom, Mommy." Hiro points to the blonde who gets up and approaches them, saying, "Meet Naruto." Sakura introduces Naruto, who bows courteously, saying, "Rin-sensei, this is Naruto, a member of Team 7. Naruto says, "I'm glad to have met you," and Rin smiles as she sees her sensei's picture. Similarly, Naruto, Rin says quietly, "My name is Rin Hitaki, but I suppose you already know that," and Naruto nods. Sakura flushes as Naruto says, "Kakashi-sensei told me about you becoming a medic kunoichi and I want to wish you luck." Sakura looks and Rin, who is now grinning mischievously, looks at the teenagers. Thanks, Sakura says. Tell me if I can be of any assistance. Even if you need me to save all my boos for you, says Naruto, grinning as he watches Sakura laugh. Thanks, she says, but she quickly turns her head away when she recalls what had happened at Ichiraku Ramen earlier. How do you think Sasuke will react? She asks. She asks anxiously, and Rin deduces that Sasuke is the other participant. He puts a hand on her shoulder and says, "Don't worry, I gave him a piece of my mind about what he said." Naruto smiles and adds, "I have your back, Sakura. I think you'll agree that this is the perfect focus for you," he says. Likewise, they both turn to see Sasuke standing there with his bandaged hands. As Sasuke approaches Sakura and offers his gaze while the twins dive all over Kakashi in an attempt to steal his book, they both say, "Sasuke," at the same time. He looks at Naruto, who nods and smiles, and finishes, "S. Sorry." He blushes a little. "Being a part of a team is a new experience for me and I've been judging you on how you were in the academy," he says. "But, I need to give you a chance to prove that you belong on the team." Sakura says. Sasuke, in shock, smiles, and reaches to shake his hand, but Naruto steps in. "Friends must embrace," he says, putting his arms around Sakura's and Sasuke's shoulders. "Friends don't shake," he yells, bringing them into a three-way hug. Struggling Sasuke tries to break free. Naruto let go. He protests, "Sasuke, hurry up. Experience the love." Overly friendly, Naruto yells at him, "I don't want to feel the love." Sakura laughs heartily at her teammate's behavior and smiles, knowing that she has finally found her place as a kunoichi. Sasuke struggles harder, but he is unable to push hard enough because his hands are still sore. After 2 days. All right. Hiruzen looks at Kakashi and notices that the three of them already appear closer than they were before. Sakura was by her teammates, not hiding out of sight. Sasuke appeared more animated and wasn't frowning like he used to, and Naruto. Well, Naruto is still the overconfident boy he used to be, but he was also more focused. Hiruzen is surprised when Kakashi says, "We've agreed that Sasuke and Naruto are ready." "Sakura, how about you?" Hiruzen inquires, and Sakura advances. Sakura assertively states, "I am not ready," which perplexed Hiruzen. "I recently made the decision to become a medic kunoichi, but 2 days of training isn't enough to get me through a Circa rank mission," she explains, adding that Sasuke and Naruto can manage it without me. Sasuke smirks and adds, "But we will wait if we have to. We are a team." He looks at Kakashi, who nods, and says, "While this is highly unusual, I will grant you your request for a C-rank mission." Naruto and Sasuke give Kakashi a high five as Hiruzen hands him a scroll with the letter C on it. "This mission will start tomorrow when the client arrives. It is an escort mission to the Land of Waves," he says, adding that it should be challenging enough for a 3-man squad. The two boys bow and say, "Thanks Hokage," realizing that this is the chance they have been waiting for. Kakashi turns to the boys and says, "This will be a test, so only bring what you think we will need." The boys nod as he leaves the office. "We'll get it done, Hokage." Naruto, Sasuke, go home and pack. Sakura bows before leaving, saying, "I'll be going too. Rin-sensei is waiting for me in a training room in the hospital." When Hiruzen is by himself, he turns to face Kakashi and remarks, "They seem different." Kakashi nods. Kakashi responds, "You're right. 2 days ago, there were 3 genin. Now they're a team." Sasuke, Kakashi, and Naruto waited at the gate for the master bridge builder, Tazuna, who was described as a gray-haired, bespectacled man with dark eyes and a large beard. He wore a sleeveless V-neck shirt with an obi, pants, and sandals, a towel around his neck, and a pointed hat on his head. The 2 genin follow Kakashi's finger as he gestures toward a yawning man approaching them, saying, "Master Tazuna?" Kakashi inquires in search of confirmation. "Well." The 2 genin glare at Tazuna as he looks at the group and scoffs, "When I paid for protection, I was expecting men not boys." "Be thankful you have any protection for what you paid," says Naruto. "If I was old man Hokage, I would have given you a stick and a piece of paper telling you to hit people with it." He continues by folding his arms. "What a clever mouth." Tazuna quips mockingly, "Tell me, can these kids actually protect me?" Then he asks Kakashi, who nods. "I'll have to take your word," he laments. "So happy you're on board." Sasuke and Naruto both say this at the same time. Kakashi says, "Their names are Naruto." He points to the blonde and says, "And Sasuke." He points to the teenager with the raven hair and says, "And I'm Kakashi." He concludes, "We better get going." The group forms a formation with Sasuke in front of Tazuna, Naruto walking behind him, and Kakashi walking next to Tazuna. The four of them leave the village gates and enter the forest in silence. In the meantime, Sakura started training with Rin, and as she was doing a healing jutsu on a fish, Rin opened a book on the anatomy of aquatic life on the page of the fish she was healing. Rin had informed her that medics must have a great deal of chakra control and a thorough understanding of the human body, herbs, medicines, and even poisons. Up until now, Sakura had been having trouble, but Rin had told her that it takes hours of practice to learn the fundamentals. I wonder how Naruto and Sasuke are doing, Sakura thought, and Rin gave her a gentle slap on the back of the head. Once you've accomplished this, we'll go get some food, Rin says, and Sakura nods while continuing to practice her jutsu on the fish. Rin didn't know if Sakura was nervous about her training, afraid that she would fail, or jealous that her team was on a higher-ranked mission without her, but she could tell by the weakened green glow around Sakura's hands that she was thinking about something other than her training, most likely her teammates. In the meantime, Naruto and Sasuke walk up front together, while Kakashi walks behind the group. Naruto walks with his arms folded and Sasuke in his pockets as Team 7 and the bridge builder Tazuna pass through a rather peaceful and quiet section of the forest. As he steps in a puddle, Naruto says, "I'm thinking about asking Sakura out when we get back." Kakashi sees the puddle and is suspicious because it hasn't rained in weeks. "Why should I give a damn? And don't you think that you'll get in the way of her training?" Sasuke asks Naruto. He adds, scoffing slightly. Naruto sighs, "Come on, man. It's normal for teenage boys to date and flirt with teenage girls." "Really, man? Do you never consider attractive women wearing bikinis? Or are they guys in thongs?" he asks, and Sasuke scoffs and turns away. He smiles as he watches Sasuke nearly throw up in his mouth. In contrast to the boys from his hometown, Tazuna noticed that the two boys in front of him had light in their eyes, pure and innocent, and he envied them for it. He turns to see Kakashi reading a book, to think these guys are shinobi. Tazuna is shocked because he had always assumed that shinobi were calculating, cold machines, but these boys appeared to be regular boys, and Kakashi was just like him. Sasuke murmurs resentfully, "Look Naruto, just because I don't flirt with every girl I see doesn't mean I'm gay. There's a girl I'm interested in," he adds, drawing Naruto's attention. "Ino." He blushes when he gets it right, and Naruto gives him a sly look. "Yeah man, she is a hottie," he says. "And she's already infatuated with you. Go for it." As he finishes, he hears a rustle in the bush. "Come on, pay attention." Kakashi's eyes widened as he was encircled by a pair of large shuriken chains. The chains were fastened to two metal gauntlets, each of which was worn by a chunin. When the chain was pulled, Kakashi was torn to pieces. The person on the right grinned and said, "One down brother, and one too." He interrupted as Naruto's fist struck his face. "You little." Sasuke's foot drives into his chest, cutting off the second chunin. Both chunin fly back into Kakashi's waiting arms, where he swiftly knocks them out. As he uses the chain to restrain the two attackers, Kakashi says, "Well done you two," with genuine admiration. "These guys are the demon brothers from the Hidden Mist village," he explains, turning to the group. Something doesn't add up. Kakashi turns to face the now apprehensive Tazuna, saying angrily, "I think you have some explaining to do." "Well you see, the village I hail from is currently in a famine thanks to a corrupt businessman named Gado, founder of shipping magnate called Gado Company." Tazuna starts. "He has all but drained our land of money and resources." He keeps going. "Our only hope is to build a bridge that connects us to the main land so Gado can't hold all the shipments for himself," he concludes. Kakashi analyzes the new information and says, "Which means this Gado will have hired help, including shinobi, to make sure you don't finish the bridge." He purposefully withheld the information to see how Naruto and Sasuke would respond, and they handled themselves well and swiftly disposed of the threat. It is possible that Junin-class shinobi will also work for this Gado. Naruto shrugs, and Kakashi turns to face the teenager. "Whatever man, I am not walking back to the village without seeing this through. I mean, if we stop here without finishing this, then we might get stuck doing D-ranked missions forever," he continues. In continuation of Naruto's statement, "When we finish this mission with the unexpected difficulty, then the third Hokage will see that we are capable of through missions," Sasuke says. "I'm not afraid of a challenge, Kakashi." Kakashi observed that Sasuke used the phrase, "when we finish this mission," rather than, "if we finish this mission," indicating that his two genin had no intention of stopping. Kakashi says, "Okay, since you two are determined to finish this mission, I do have rules. First, you are to follow my instructions to the letter," he says, and they nod. "Second, if I think an opponent is too tough for you, then you leave him to me," he adds, and they nod. "Third and finally, disobey the first two and I'll make sure the two of you never see a mission above D rank again," he says gravely, and the two nod. Well, then let's get underway, Kakashi says to the group, and they continue walking to the place where they will board a boat that will transport them to the land of waves. Returning to Leaf Village while eating her lunch alone, Sakura noticed that Ino was saying goodbye to her teammates Shikamaru and Choji, as well as a tall man with brown eyes, short black spiky hair, a beard, and the standard Konoha ninja uniform with the sleeves rolled up halfway, flak jacket, regular shinobi sandals, and a forehead protector. Sakura assumed that he was their team's sensei, and Ino glanced over and waved as she approached. Sakura glares at Ino, who grins and says, "Hey forehead, what are you up to? And where's your team?" she asks. She adds inquisitively. When Ino asks, Ino.pig mumbles under her breath, they're on a mission outside the village. She knows from Ino's shocked expression that her team has only been given D-ranked missions, so she adds, "I'm training to become a medical kunoichi, so I stayed behind." With a hint of surprise, a medic adds, "And what kind of mission are they doing? All we've done is chores." She sighs, obviously envious. "It's an escort mission," Sakura says. "They're bringing a master carpenter to the land of waves," she explains. As the two talk, they see a woman with light brown, pupil, less eyes, and black hair which has violet tint, which is styled in a short, spiky, fanned ponytail. She is commonly seen wearing a tan overcoat with a purple seam, which has a pocket on both sides, and complete with a fitted mesh bodysuit that stretches from her neck down to her thighs. She wears a dark orange mini skirt, as well as a forehead protector, a small pendant that looks like a snake fang on a thick cord rather than a chain to prevent it from being easily torn off in combat, a wristwatch, and shin guards. She also wears a dark blue belt around her waist that connects to her skirt that has an appendage, like sash. She has seemingly cornered a man with onyx eyes and jet black hair that was pulled back with a red elastic in a low ponytail, man with which extended to his shoulder blades. He wears a black shirt with the Uchiha clan symbol on the back with bandages around his ankles and black sandals. He also wore tan pants with a weapons pouch strapped to his back. If Sakura and Ino didn't know any better, they could swear they were staring at an older version of Sasuke. Unlike Sasuke, however, he didn't look all too intimidating and had a gentle look in his eyes along with a warm smile. In a flirtatious gesture, the purple-haired woman put her arm around Uchiha's shoulder and said, "Come on, Uchiha. With both your parents and brother away, it'd be just the two of us," she said, smiling and leaning to his ear to whisper something obviously perverted. "I mean, you are 18 now, right? Do you mind?" she asks. The Uchiha smiles and says, "I'm afraid I'm not quite 18 yet, Anko." He almost instantly regrets his choice of words and suggests, "Perhaps on a later date when I have less things to do." "Just a taste for now," Anko smiles, leans in, and licks his cheek. "Looking forward to it," she says, swaying her hips as she leaves, thinking he will be watching. However, she was mistaken, and the Uchiha's eyes shifted to Sakura and Ino. He approaches them and says, "I know the two of you." The two girls become very agitated. "You're the two girls my younger brother had that double date with," he says, and they both blush as they recall that day. Sakura recalls kissing Naruto on the cheek, while Ino recalls Sasuke walking her home. "You're a brother of Sasuke's?" The elder Uchiha nods when Sakura asks. Itachi introduces himself, then notices that he hasn't cleaned Anko's saliva off his cheek. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," he says, referring to what just transpired between him and Anko. "I did a mission with her a while back, and ever since she's become infatuated with me." He smiles awkwardly, recalling some of her previous attempts to woo him, the most memorable of which was when she sneaked into the Uchiha compound while wearing only 2 present ribbons and a tag that read, "For Itachi Uchiha." She ended up in the master bedroom where his parents were sleeping. Sakura looks at Ino, who is practically drooling at the sight of Sasuke's older brother, and thinks, "Wow, both brothers are total ladies' men." Sakura could tell that Itachi was the kinder of the two, but she also understood why Sasuke had spent so much time training. Itachi's presence demanded respect, but his sincere smile also made you feel safe. "Wow, both brothers are total hotties," Ino squeals inside her head. Sakura knew he was strong. As soon as Itachi leaves, Ino and Sakura sigh deeply. "Well, I better be going," Itachi starts. "Make sure to look after my foolish little brother." He smiles when he sees the two girls nod. Ino sighs once more and says, "Man, I thought I was going to faint." She grins, expecting Sakura to respond negatively, but is taken aback when she doesn't. "I hope the rest of his family isn't like that when he brings me home," she says. Remembering how Itachi called Sasuke his foolish little brother, Sakura reflects, "He seemed like a nice man. I wonder what Sasuke acts like around him." and I'm anxious for Naruto and Sasuke to get back so I can start doing missions, she adds, observing Rin approaching them. Rin says, Sakura, and Ino looks at the new woman. Are you prepared to resume training? Ino asks. Sakura nods when she asks. Sakura puts money on the table to pay for her food and says, I'll talk to you later, Ino. As she watches her friend leave with the woman who must be teaching her to be a medic, Ino responds. Yeah, later Sakura. I suppose I better head to the flower shop, she muses, getting up and leaving as a woman arrives to clear the table and collect the money. The wave land following the boat ride. Team 7 and Tazuna find themselves in a dense fog area. They walk a short distance inland before pausing to stretch and recover from the experience. Naruto says, I wonder how Sakura is doing back in the village, and Kakashi gives him a look. This is about the 5th time he has brought up Sakura since they began the mission. Sasuke explains, unless they haven't figured out the 2 guys from before failed, and the 3 of them stare at him. I mean, if this Gato really wanted Tazuna dead, then attacking us while we were on the boat would have been the perfect time, he says, scratching his chin. The 2 teenagers nod, and Kakashi acknowledges, true. But if I had to guess, I bet they are holding back, and setting traps for us up ahead. Be on constant alert from here on out, he says, and he mentally sighs. They won't be sending Chunin level this time, it'll be Junin. This is no ordinary fog, Sasuke thinks as he hears steel slicing through the air. Get down. Naruto looks back to see his teammates Keke Genkai and observes that each eye has 2 tomo. Sasuke decides to activate his Sharingan as they continue to walk towards the town, but the fog only seems to get thicker and harder to see ahead. He shouts, and the group falls to the ground as a giant blade spins over them and impales them into a tree. Then, a tall, distinctly muscular man with pale skin, short, spiky black hair, brown eyes, and small eyebrows appears. He wears a forehead protector sideways on his head, is shirtless, has a belt covering his chest, and is dressed in baggy pants with stripes, wrist warmers that reach his elbows, and matching leg warmers. Nice dodge for a bunch of brats, the masked man said menacingly, but I see a gem among the rocks. He turned to face Kakashi and said, the copy. Nin Kakashi Hitaki is the most well-known shinobi in the Hidden Leaf. Naruto and Sasuke turned to face their sensei, not realizing he was famous. Kakashi, who is positioned between the new adversary and the other members of the group, mockingly remarks, and you are the demon of the hidden mist, Zabuza Momochi, now reduced to a hired sword. Every shinobi is a weapon of war, Zabuza says, adding, I just so happen to go to the highest bidder. He looks at the runts, and Uchiha and thinks, he looks familiar, grinning beneath the bandages. How did those rookies get to be called shinobi? He asks. Seeing the 2 boys glare at him, he asks, since the last ninja war, the standards of the Hidden Leaf village have declined. I'm your opponent, so don't worry about them, Kakashi says. Naruto? Sasuke. The 2 genin are about to argue, but they both choose to listen to Kakashi because he is acting serious. Get the bridge builder to safety, he commands. So naive, Zabuza sighs, slicing through Naruto, Sasuke, and Tazuna. I have no need to face you now, my only focus is the bridge builder, he says before disappearing and his blade appearing in the space between Naruto and Sasuke, balanced on his shoulders. Zabuza observes the genin and bridge builder transform into earth clones, and Naruto smirks, not quite so naive. Earth clones. Zabuza is a little surprised because he wasn't prepared for that and was taken by surprise when Kakashi threw a kunai at him, scraping his shoulder and causing blood to flow. As he lifts his headband to reveal his Sharingan, which, in contrast to Sasuke's, had 3 tomo, Kakashi congratulates his team and says, you stay with Tazuna, and stay out of this fight. The 2 genin obey. Does Kakashi possess a Sharingan? Shocked, Sasuke uses his own Sharingan to analyze the 2 sparring Junin, learning every move by heart, even down to the smallest detail. I can use these moves later, he muses, sketching a kunai getting ready to attack the bridge builder. After attempting to gain the upper hand with a couple of water clones, Zabuza lands on a lake, forms a seal, and then vanishes entirely as a heavier mist forms. In reference to Naruto's earth clone, Kakashi adds, be ready, he won't make the same mistake twice. Didn't Kakashi just tell you that I don't fall for the same trick twice? Zabuza yells as he emerges behind the 2 genin and the bridge builder, swinging quickly and forcefully before slicing through an earth clone once more. Zabuza notices that the clones contain paper bombs, which explode and engulf Zabuza in the explosion. Naruto smirks and responds, good thing I added a kick. After the smoke clears, all that's left is a pool of water. A water clone? Naruto looks around and muses. Zabuza, hidden in the shadows, starts to plan. Let's see him. He looks at Kakashi, who is still on high alert. I could take out Kakashi and slowly pick off the other three. Then he realizes that the raven-haired teen is actually a Uchiha, who has been observing all of his movements. I get it, he smirks, while the blonde draws my attacks. The Uchiha brat watches for openings. Impressive, formulating a plan without saying a word. Perhaps I misjudged those kids after all, he says, gripping the hilt of his blade. He charges out and swings at Sasuke, who dodges only to have another Zabuza slice through him. Got you. Zabuza grins only to have his eyes widen as Sasuke turns into Naruto, who then turns into an exploding earth clone. Again. He feels the sting as his right arm is caught in the explosion. When he looks, he sees the wrist warmer is gone and there is a serious burn with blood trickling down from the wound. A clone. Gazing at Kakashi, who smiles, he muses. Kakashi turns into Naruto and says, "Took you long enough." Zabuza's eyes enlarge as the other Naruto disappears. A transformation jutsu and two clones. With a smirk, Naruto reaches into his pack and draws out his three-bladed kunai as Zabuza growls in the air. Naruto smiles before disappearing in a yellow flash, saying, "You can chase us all you want, but you can't defeat us with just one arm." What jutsu was that? He lands on one knee and looks around, seeing no sign of either the bridge builder or the leaf shinobi. Damn it. He screams in exasperation as a young man with an androgynous appearance, a slender frame, large, dark brown eyes, two loose locks of hair framing his face, bound with metal hair cuffs at the ends, pale skin, and a slender frame. The boy's shinobi outfit included the standard Kirigakure pinstriped outfit that ended at his knees, a green haori with white trimmings, a brown sash with a fringed trail around his waist twice, light brown platoon sandals with straps in the same color as his kimono, matching blue-green nail polish on his fingernails and toenails, and a black forehead protector with the Kirigakure symbol on it. After discovering that the boy detested killing people, Zabuza looked at him and knew he was lying. "Calm yourself, master," he said gently. "Only give the order and I will deal with them," he added in a colder tone. "Calm down, Haku." Zabuza smiles. "Alone, you would be slaughtered by them," he says. "I underestimated them." He concludes by imagining the teen with the blonde hair attempting to connect him. "Next time, I won't," he says somberly. Later on in the town, as they raced through the town with the real Kakashi, Sasuke, and Tazuna, Kakashi and Sasuke hoped their teammate was alright. Sasuke was holding one of Naruto's three-bladed kunai when the kunai vanished in an instant, and Naruto was now in front of the group. What was the outcome? When Kakashi asks, Naruto smiles and gives him the thumbs up. While some rich guy named Gato bleeds the land of all the resources, kids are forced to beg on the streets, and Naruto thinks, "I'm going to enjoy killing this guy." Naruto turns to Sasuke, whose eyes are focused on two men with swords strapped to their waists, and shakes down a merchant for tax. "I managed to injure him, so we should have a few days to prepare," Naruto says as they walk through the town. The leaf shinobi are disgusted and enraged by the situation. Sasuke nearly breaks away when he says, "We need to do something," but Kakashi puts his hand on his shoulder. "Not now," he murmurs, trying to avoid drawing more attention than they already were. "The less the enemy knows of our whereabouts the better," he explains, and Sasuke nods. They arrive at the bridge builder's house, where they meet his daughter Tsunami and grandson Inari. While Tsunami was friendly to the group, Inari appeared irate at their arrival. By the time the dinner rolled around, Kakashi, Naruto, and Sasuke were discussing plans for when Tazuna and the others would be working on the bridge. Given that Zabuza didn't get along with others, Kakashi surmised that Zabuza was Gato's only shinobi, meaning that the rest of Gato's forces was made up of bandits and mercenaries, meaning that they didn't use jutsu or wield chakra period. As the two nod, Kakashi says, "Okay, while I deal with the bigger groups, you two pick off any who make it past. We should also lay a few traps," he adds. "I have a few smoke pellets," Naruto responds. "If we can set a few to go off in the forest around where the bridge starts, then we can see where they're coming from," he continues. "Or at least which general area," he continues. Sasuke continues Naruto's plan by saying, "I have a few paper bombs. We could hide them close to where the smoke will go off," he says. "They could be used to funnel the bulk to you, Kakashi, while thinning their numbers." "Good," says Kakashi. "We'll head out to the bridge tomorrow and look around. The traps will have to be expertly hidden to fool Zabuza." "What's the point?" The shinobi turned to face the young Inari as he asked, "You will die if you fight Gato. Things are the way they because he is too strong," he adds more forcefully. "Just leave before you make it worse," he continues. He bolts from the room. I'm sorry about Inari. Tazuna sighs. Kaiza tried to stop Gato when he came to the land of waves to take over the land. He starts. Gato used Kaiza to send a message to everyone. He looks down at Tsunami, who is crying. Tazuna nods as Kakashi declares he killed Kaiza. The three shinobi's eyes enlarge at the brutal method of execution as Tazuna explains. He cut off Kaiza's arms and publicly executed him. And Inari witnessed it happen. Tsunami says. Inari idolized Kaiza, and when Kaiza was killed Inari was emotionally destroyed. She continues. Kakashi stands up and says, I'm sorry for your loss. Naruto Sasuke must meet me outside for some last minute training, he adds. We'll meet you at the bridge building site, Tazuna. Tazuna nods, and the Leaf Shinobi leaves the house. In a space that is open after saying, okay, you too, Kakashi walks up the closest tree and says, I'm going to show you something that should help in the coming battle. Even though they're the ideal student for a lazy person like him, he still wanted to teach them something. This is done by. He stops when he sees Sasuke and Naruto approaching from behind. Can you walk on water too? He asks, hoping they didn't know. He nods, confirming that they can walk on water. When we get back to the village to learn something as a team, he says, irritated. Kakashi nods in agreement as Sasuke asks, well, should we head to the bridge? Yes, Kakashi replies. We should also set up the traps in case Zabuza heals like a demon. The bridge, 2 days went by without any problems. The bridges were making good progress, and everyone working on the project felt secure knowing that shinobi were protecting their bodies. Kakashi stood watch at the bridge's entrance while Sasuke and Naruto patrolled the area. After deciding to quickly take a break behind the tree, Naruto heard voices and footsteps approaching. 3 shakes for luck. He smirked and leapt into the tree to get a clear view of the oncoming crowd. He noticed 2 men, both of whom were brandishing katana swords. The person with the eye patch grins and says, Gato wants us to send a message to the old carpenter. And apparently he has a beautiful daughter who just lost her husband, he continues. The other one chuckles as they go beneath him, and Naruto leaps down. Well, let's pay her a visit and show her a good time while Zabuza handles the shinobi from the leaf. With Zabuza on his way, Naruto decides to go straight to the house, regretting not leaving a seal on it so he could teleport there and warn Kakashi and Sasuke. I should go back and tell Kakashi and Sasuke about this, he thinks. But those two could, he decides. Returning to the bridge with Kakashi, he witnesses Sasuke emerge from the forest without Naruto. What's going on? He asks softly so as not to wake the already tense builders. And in the forest where I was walking I saw a trail of slice marks in the trees, slices branches, and a dead boar. Sasuke responds, glancing around. Someone there was swinging a sword around, he adds. I can't find Naruto. Going to Tazuna, Kakashi says, I doubt whoever there have Naruto, but just in case we should prepare for an attack. There may be trouble, he whispers, and Tazuna stops what he's doing. When we engage the enemy, get your people in the forest and hide, he adds. But keep working, he says, and Tazuna continues working. A mist covered the bridge about 10 minutes later, and Kakashi realized Zabuza was there. As soon as the builders had moved aside, Hidden Mist Nin appeared with the blade's hilt. I'm glad to see you stuck around, Kakashi, he says, and a smile forms on the bandages covering his face. Or are you that blonde-haired kid? He asks patronizingly. Kakashi draws a kunai and says, don't worry, Zabuza. He continues, last time we had to get the bridge builder to safety, now I will deal with you. He turns to face Sasuke and says, Sasuke, go find Naruto. Sasuke nods. Sasuke turns and heads into the forest, but as he does, needles fall in his path, forcing him to jump back to avoid them. When a figure appears in front of Sasuke, he assumes a fighting stance and says, sorry, but you can't be allowed to live. As the masked shinobi rushes at him, Sasuke assertively activates his Sharingan and declares, you shouldn't underestimate the Uchiha. Returning with Naruto with astonishment in his eyes, Naruto glances down at the unconscious attackers before turning to face Tsunami and Inari, who were clinging to his mother. He exclaims, amazed, I can't believe you beat them. Naruto turns to face Inari and responds, guys like this are only strong against defenseless opponents. They're not worth my best, he continues. I was confused over your outburst, he says, and Inari looks down. Your mom told us about Kaiza, he says, and the young boy looks like he's about to cry at the mention of his idol. I can relate, my dad died when I was a baby and I grew up alone with no one to look after me, he says, smiling as he thinks of his mom, Sasuke, Kakashi, and Sakura. Remember how brave Kaiza was? He wanted this land free of Gato, and I swear it will be, he says, pats Inari on the head, I promise. He approaches the unconscious men, takes their swords, and tells Tsunami, tie them up. Tsunami nod, and Naruto leaves the two alone. With a little more assurance, Inari says, Mom, and Tsunami looks at him. I don't want to cry anymore, he adds, and Tsunami smiles back. Then don't, she murmurs. While he mentally chastises himself for not leaving a spare at the bridge site, Naruto runs through the forest, thinking, I wonder why I can't teleport to Sasuke. The sooner I master the seals the better, he sighs and continues the 30-minute walk to the bridge site. Returning with Sasuke, the two teenagers were beginning to slow down after 20 minutes of fast-paced, and forth fighting. The masked man, Haku, was using what he called secret jutsu, crystal ice mirrors, which was a dome of ice mirrors that only reflected Haku. He was hard, but Sasuke's Sharingan was assisting him in avoiding serious injuries. He observes the many senbon needles and remarks, this guy is skilled and concludes, these senbon aren't laced with poison. He believes this because he has been struck a few times. And his aim is precise. So he is aiming to incapacitate me, he adds. But why? He asks. He has amazing reflexes, and thanks to his Sharingan he is able to read my moves, which are getting slower the more this drags on. And if the blonde-haired one shows up, Haku adds, feeling the pressure as he looks to the left and hears a rustle in the trees. The Uchiha certainty live up to the hype, he thinks. Using this chance, Sasuke exhales several tiny fireballs and yells, fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu. While inhaling rat. Right pointing arrow. Tiger. Right pointing arrow. Dog. Right pointing arrow. Ox. Right pointing arrow. Rabbit. Right pointing arrow. Tiger. Haku realizes his error and tries to retract into the mirror, but is struck by the fireballs as he does so. Damn! Haku leaps from the mirrors, knowing that the fireballs contained shuriken and that a hit would expel the fire, throwing several senbon. He is shocked to see the senbon pass right through the fireballs. Sasuke smirks and exclaims, got him. I knew he'd think there would be shuriken in the flames. He notices that Haku is slumped forward and says, it's over, Haku. He then turns to see what Kakashi is doing and remarks, and it looks like your friend is done for too. Zabuza is pinned by a group of dogs, which must be Kakashi's summons. This is the end, Zabuza. He holds onto his wrist with his left hand as a ball of lightning forms in his open right palm. He yells, lightning blade, and lunges forward, but instead stabs Haku, who uses his ice mirror to absorb the blow. Haku reaches up and grabs Kakashi's right arm, and Kakashi's attack causes his dogs to vanish, freeing Zabuza. Zabuza smiles and gets ready to swing his blade, saying, well done, Haku. Kakashi shouts, he's going to slice through the two of us, and swiftly raises Haku to avoid the blow. When he tries to help Kakashi, the mirrors around him disappear, and he collapses to one knee from exhaustion and pain from some needles he just felt in his chest. These must have been, he thinks, remembering that he didn't avoid the senbon that Haku threw to counter his jutsu, and now he was just feeling it. Sasuke. He turns around to see Naruto sprinting towards him. Panting heavily, Sasuke asks angrily, where the hell have you been? Some of Gado's men went to Tezuna's place to kidnap Inari and Tsunami. Naruto continues. I had to deal with them and then I couldn't teleport here, he concludes. Sasuke's eyes close as he says, oh yeah. The kunai was broken by Haku. Naruto nods and starts to remove the senbon. As he finishes removing the needles, he grins and says, great place to fall asleep. He looks up to see Zabuza attacking Kakashi. Tezuna approaches Naruto from behind and says, go to Kakashi Naruto. He then places a medical bag on the ground and says, I'll tend to Sasuke's wounds. Okay. Naruto nods and rushes to Kakashi, shouting, Sensei. The fighting shinobi stare at him and yell, watch out. Both Junin look up to see numerous arrows flying at them, but they both avoid them. You shinobi are more trouble than you're worth, the short man smirks, adding, but at least I get to kill you myself, Zabuza. I was hoping you would all kill each other, he says. Gado, you little maggot. Zabuza snarls as he sees the short man kick Haku's lifeless body, shattering the mask he had on. That was for my arm. He growls at the corpse. Zabuza glares at Gado, making Naruto and Kakashi wince as the anger radiates from the glare. He then turns to face his left arm, which now has an arrow in it, rendering it useless and numb, after looking at his right arm, which was broken in his fight with Kakashi. He asks smugly, so tell me, demon, how quick do you want your death? Kakashi, I entrust my executioner's blade to you. Zabuza responds, Haku, it pained him to have to fight you. Haku fought not only for me, he fought for you guys too. He was too kind. I'm glad I got to face you guys in the end. You may be right, a shinobi is still a human, we may not be able to become emotionless tools. He explains, using his teeth to rip away the bandages wrapped around his mouth before placing a kunai sideways in his mouth as a dark shroud surrounded him. Gado. He charges at the group of mercenaries as Gado retreated to the back only to find himself trapped at the edge of the bridge as he watched Zabuza kill men and close in on him. Despite having spears lodged in his back, he stabs Gado in the stomach before slicing his throat, killing him, and watches him fall into the water below. Zabuza then turns back around to the mob of criminals and almost looks like a demon. The men run away screaming from the land, jumping into the water and away from the bridge. Zabuza falls to his knees as the weapons dislodge from his back. He is caught by Kakashi. "Bring me to Haku," his voice says pleadingly. As it starts to snow, Kakashi nods and picks up Zabuza, saying, "Okay, just hold on." He then carries him to Haku and lies him down next to the teenager. "Are you crying for me, Haku? You were always by my side, so the least I can do is be by your side at the end," he says, reaching up with his broken arm and placing it on the teenager's cheek. "I wish I could go where you have gone, but I know it isn't possible. Haku, how I wish I could be there with you." He passes out. Kakashi looks down at the two missing nin bodies and remarks, "Maybe you will go to the same place." "Naruto. Are you okay? May I ask?" he asks. "Yeah." Before crossing the newly constructed bridge, Team 7 bid farewell to Tazuna, Inari, and Tsunami after the bridge was completed and the last of Gado's influence had been removed from the town. As the three turn around, Kakashi says, "Feel proud, you too. Not many genin can say they helped save a village as their first official mission as shinobi," he says, adding, "and to have faced strong opponents like Zabuza of the Seven Swordsmen and Haku of the Ice-type Kekkei Genkai and lived to tell the tale." He looks at the enormous blade on his back. "All in all, a mission well done," he concludes. Sasuke laughs and responds, "What?" Naruto asks in a perplexed tone. "We totally have to celebrate," Naruto says. Sasuke crosses his arms and says, "Come on, you just want to ask Sakura out on a date and have me waste my time by coming along." Naruto smiles and says, "Did I say we had to celebrate together?" Kakashi sighs as he continues, "I'm perfectly fine with just me and Sakura alone." The three start running quickly after Kakashi says, "Come on, let's pick up the pace. I'd like to get back to the village fast so I can explain the full report I sent on ahead," he adds. Without Tazuna, they would arrive at the village twice as quickly and should be home by tomorrow morning. In the meantime, Sakura has been called to the Hokage Tower back in the Hidden Leaf. Her team was supposed to return 2 days ago, and she has been extremely anxious. She hopes the Hokage will finally have information about her team, but she is afraid the news will be negative. Sakura enters the room after gently knocking on the door. "You wanted to see me, Lord Hokage?" she asks courteously. "Yes, Miss Haruno," Hiruzen Sarutobi starts. "I know you're excited to hear about your team, and I'm glad to report that they have finally done so," he says, smiling as he sees her face light up. "They're on their way back, and it looks like there were some issues that Kakashi will clarify in detail when they get back," he says, and Sakura nods. Hiruzen nods as Sakura asks, "So did he mention when they would be back?" "Yes, Kakashi is hoping to be back for tomorrow morning at the earliest and the afternoon at the latest." Hiruzen clarifies. "One more thing, Miss Haruno. Rin tells me you are progressing fast in your training." He starts and Sakura nods. Sakura recalls Rin telling her it was because of the years she spent practicing chakra control that "my skills are advanced for someone with a few weeks training." "Well, the village can always use new medics." Hiruzen smiles and dismisses her, saying, "Well, I will let you get back to your training." She bows and leaves the room. "I'm glad they're all right," she thinks as she leaves the tower, gazing up at the clear blue sky. "I can't wait to show them how much I've improved," she adds, feeling more assured of her skills. Outside her family's flower shop, she spots Ino chatting with a customer. When the customer leaves, she approaches Ino, who is working on a flower arrangement when she notices Sakura approaching. As she works on her flowers, she asks, "Hey Forehead, what's up?" Sakura asks, "Why aren't you going on missions with your team?" Ino dusts off her skirt and removes her apron and gloves. "Asuma-sensei decided there was no point in just the two of us, so I'm helping out around the shop because Choji is sick and Shikamaru has clan duties today," Ino explains. "Any news about your team?" she asks, and Sakura smiles and nods. "Yeah, apparently there were complications with the mission and they were delayed," Sakura clarifies. "They should be home tomorrow," she continues. Sakura laughs softly as Ino squeals, "Cool, I better look my sexiest for Sasuke." "What's so funny?" Ino asks, placing her hands on her hips. "Nothing. Sakura grins. I'm glad they're okay, she continues, and I can't wait to finally get the chance to go on a mission. Previously, she believed she would only be a burden, but now that she has her medical skills and improved taijutsu, she can manage herself better thanks to Rin-sensei's teachings. Sakura nods in response to Ino's question, are you hungry? Mom, going to get something to eat? Ino shouts into the store after hearing her mother respond that she could. Come on, she exclaims with joy. Later in the evening, Sasuke, Naruto, and Kakashi have halted their activities for the evening. Sasuke and Naruto sit next to the campfire, while Kakashi leans against a tree and reads his perverted book. Sasuke looks at the fire and says, my brother informed me that the Chunin exams are approaching before I set out on this mission. Naruto says, yeah, my cousin Sora told me about them, the next rank up, as he leans back and gazes at the sky. He thinks out loud, I bet that's the reason we are placed on 3-man teams. Sasuke looks at Naruto and says, I wonder how Sakura's training is going. I mean, if we hope to become Chunin, we need her to be strong, he says. She won't let us down, Naruto says with a smile, adding, I'm more worried about myself. Sasuke raises an eyebrow, asking, what happens if you have to be paired up with someone who's as strong as you in a 1-on-1 match? Sasuke smirks, knowing where this is going. I won't be able to find anyone unless the Hokage is available, he says, feigning distress before grinning. I won't find anyone since nobody's at my level, Sasuke responds sarcastically. Kakashi looks up at the teenagers and I am reminded of his days with Obito, but their rivalry was more violent than Naruto and Sasuke's. They go to their blankets and fall asleep on them after Kakashi interrupts their argument, saying, okay, you two get some sleep, we'll be leaving bright and early. 10 minutes later, Kakashi nods off while still leaning against the tree. Later when they reach the gates at noon the next morning, the three hastily clean up and pack up before continuing on to the village. I'll report to the Hokage, you should let your families know you're back, Kakashi says to his students, and the two teenagers nod. Sasuke then walks in the direction of the Uchiha compound, while Naruto teleports in a yellow flash. The compound known as Uchiha, a fair-skinned woman with long, black hair and bangs that hang on either side of her face to roughly frame her black eyes and cheeks, greets Sasuke as he enters. She wore a light yellow apron over a plain dark purple blouse and a red plum skirt. She hugs Sasuke and exclaims, my baby, as she notices his irritated look. Makoto Uchiha, the wife of the current clan head and chief of the Konoha military police force Fugaku Uchiha, is the mother of Sasuke and Itachi. Mom, Sasuke maintains his composure well. Where's Dad and Itachi? He asks. When her youngest says, your father is at the station and Itachi is on an important mission, Makoto pouts and breaks the embrace. So how was your first official mission? She asks. Makoto's eyes enlarge a little as Sasuke responds, considering the client lied about the mission's complexity, it went good. Makoto asks, what do you mean? Was it more dangerous? Sasuke smiles, not caring how risky it was because they were successful anyhow. As Sasuke starts, he notices his mother's eyes widen as he explains, well, it turned out that this corrupt businessman named Gato was trying to seize the land for himself and hired an army of shinobi to keep intruders out. Anyway, we ended up facing the entire army and I killed Zabuza in one-on-one combat, he says with a proud smirk. Of course, he is lying, but that was his version of events, and it could have been worse. Namikaze Estate Naruto tells an enthralled Kushina, so there were 100 guys staring me down. And I was like, line up so I can distribute the ass-kickings evenly, he says, pumping his fist at his awesomeness. Kushina exclaims, then what, with the pride of a child for her son. Their leader Zabuza Momochi and his right-hand Haku appeared and I easily dispatched of them both, rescuing both Kakashi Sensei and Sasuke. He says. I even let Kakashi keep Zabuza's sword, he continues. He realizes the estate is deserted and asks, where is everyone? Hugging Naruto, Kushina exclaims, you are the strongest man ever. My big strong baby. Squeals with delight as Naruto tries to break her deadlock. When Naruto finally realizes that there are only 2 of them in the entire estate, he asks, anyway, where is everyone? Oh well, an organization is looking for Uzumaki descendants, so they went into hiding, spreading out among the nations. Kushina starts. And Kazuki and Sora have gone searching for ancient designs for ninja tools and could be gone for a long time, she concludes. She nods in response to his question, so you've been here on your own sign, they left? That bastard, he growls, leaving you here on your own. Kushina notes, actually they left the day you were supposed to be back. Anyway, it'll be the 2 of us from now on, she says with a smile. Kushina muses, I mean, the Hokage knows you're alive, so why not? Naruto asks. If that's true, why don't we move into the village? Kushina smiles as Naruto gets up and says, okay, let's find an apartment. You're not hungry? She asks, and Naruto shakes his head. I am, but I plan on asking Sakura. He says, halting his mother's twisted smile. Out. He concludes with a sigh, while his mother bellows with delight. Kushina shouts, my baby boy is becoming a man. As Naruto walks out to the stairs, his face palms up. As he ascends the stairs, he declares, I'm taking a shower first. In the city, Sakura was reading a medical book in a park when she thought, I wonder if Naruto, the team, is back. In reality, she missed the blonde genin the most. He has given her the courage to pursue a career as a kunoichi in the brief time she has known him. She also found herself thinking of the blonde in the same way she did Sasuke when they were in school, but she could tell it was more genuine and not just a schoolgirl crush. She wanted to see him again and stay by his side forever. She was about to respond when she heard a familiar voice ask, guess who? With a sweet coo. There are some good recipes for herbal, she thought, but was interrupted by a pair of hands covering her eyes. Naruto? She asks, instantly recognizing the person. Her vision returns, and she turns to see the smirking blonde. Sakura shuts her book, gets up, and gives Naruto a hug after he asks, miss me much? Naruto initially reacts with surprise. She puts her chin on his shoulder and responds, yeah, I did. I was worried about you, all of you. Naruto breaks the embrace and responds, yeah, there were complications that were kept secret from us. Can tell you the details, over dinner? He asks, and Sakura raises an eyebrow. Sakura says, like, a date? Naruto nods. You're paying too? She asks, and he nods again. And can I pick the restaurant? She asks more eagerly, and he sighs and nods once more. Okay, she smirks, and she gives him a hug. I know just the place, she says, guiding him out of the park and into town. After 3 years, over the last 3 years a lot has changed since I became a kunoichi. I've been a chunin for just over a year. Naruto, Sasuke and Shikamaru were the first of our year to become chunin and the only ones that took the exams as well. We met shinobi from other villages as well, most memorable ones being the Sand siblings, Gaara, Kankuro and Temari, who each proved to be capable fighters. I remember in the 3rd stage of our first chunin exams how quickly Kankuro disposed of his opponent, then Temari easily trounced a fellow leaf kunoichi named Tenten who was a skilled weapons user, but the worst was Gaara. I still remember hearing Rock Lee's arm and leg breaking under Gaara's sand manipulation jutsu. Those injuries would seemingly end Lee's shinobi career because Lee was a taijutsu-based user with zero skill with genjutsu and ninjutsu. But the Leaf showed the other villages we weren't helpless with. Sasuke, who had been heavily injured in the previous stage of the exams, defeated his opponent, and Naruto, who defeated Kiba of the Inuzuka, can who specialize in nin, hound fighting. Shino, who uses insects to fight, beat his opponent Sound Shinobi. The most surprising, though, was Shikamaru, who showed he was actually a very intelligent shinobi during these exams by outsmarting a sound kunoichi. I was paired against Ino, which ended in a double knockout. That was devastating end for me, but Naruto reminded me that Ino was a clan-born kunoichi who had techniques for combat, where I was a medic with little combat experience. In the second round of the final stage, Shikamaru lost to Temari by forfeiting, which was surprising since he had her beaten, but he said it was because he was nearly out of chakra. But I met his parents, and his mother seems to be very intimidating and controlling, while his father seems to be afraid of her, which seems to have affected Shikamaru's perspective on women. Following that was Shino against Kankuro, but Kankuro forfeited before the match began. This was confusing, though what followed made it make more sense. Naruto faced off against Neji Hyuga of the Hyuga branch clan, who almost killed his cousin Hinata Hyuga in the previous round. It turns out Hinata is a member of the main house, and Neji holds a grudge against the main house for having his father executed in order to save his identical twin brother, who was also the clan's head, who had killed a cloud shinobi who tried to abduct Hinata in order to obtain the Hyuga clan's dojutsu, the Byakugan. After an awesome bout between the two, Naruto came out as the victor by planting a mark on Neji and then teleporting behind him and hitting him with a knockout punch. Naruto helped Neji understand that children should not be held accountable for their parents' mistakes and that he should apologize to Hinata. The final bout was between Gaara and Sasuke. This match was supposed to be the first match, however Sasuke was late. Beketsu, he was training with Kakashi. During the match, the Sand Village and Sound Village showed to be allied and attacked the Leaf, being led by the Snake Sage and Sannin Orochimaru, who had tried to abduct Sasuke in the Forest of Death, only to be stopped after Naruto teleported us away from him. The Sand Genin were actually the key to the assault, and Naruto, Sasuke and Shikamaru gave chase. I went into the village to help those injured in the battle. Shikamaru faced off against Temari once again and beat her, but he also spared her, saying, "If I killed a defenseless girl, my mother would nag my ear off. What a drag." This annoyed Temari but was in no condition to stop Shikamaru from following her brothers. Sasuke was about to take on Kankuro after Gaara ran on ahead with Naruto chasing him, but Shino turned out to have been tailing them all and took Sasuke's place, who went on to aid Naruto. Shino defeated Kankuro but was poisoned in the process. Luckily I went after Sasuke and Naruto and Shikamaru, who I caught up with first. I had the poison's antidote since other shinobi had been poisoned during the attack. Shikamaru decided to bring Shino back to the village and told me to go after Sasuke and Naruto because apparently Gaara was the most dangerous. When I caught up to them, I was horrified when I saw Sasuke and Naruto lying limp face down on the ground. Gaara pinned me to a tree and I passed out as he began suffocating me. When I came to, I was in Naruto's arms on the way back to the village. He was bleeding badly and his eyes were hazing, but he held me so tightly and securely, almost like he was afraid to let me go. I never felt more safer than I did in that moment. When we got back to the village, we learned that the third Hokage had died in a battle against Orochimaru but managed to seal Orochimaru's arms, thus preventing him from using jutsu, which ended the invasion. Afterward, the Sand discovered that Orochimaru had killed their 4 Kazekage weeks prior to the alliance between the Sound and Sand and tricked them into the assault. This resulted in a peaceful surrender from the Sand, which the Leaf accepted since both villages lost their kage because of Orochimaru. The village leaders then named Sasuke, Naruto and Shikamaru Chunin as a reward for aiding the village and proving their abilities were at Chunin level. We got word from the Sand siblings Kankuro and Temari that the result of Naruto and Sasuke's battle against him changed his perspective in life and apologized for how he acted towards them, and since their relationship improved. Naruto and Sasuke refused to tell me what happened in that battle. After the horrible ordeal, things began looking brighter. My studies were going well. I had regular dates with Naruto and the occasional double date with Ino and Sasuke and Neji, who had begun dating Tenten after the Chunin exams. My first thought on Neji was that he was serious all the time and hated social gatherings like Sasuke, but in fact it seemed like he enjoyed it. Tenten was a kind-hearted girl despite being a fierce warrior-like persona in battle. They both seemed devastated by Lee's shinobi career being over due to injuries. While the village was under repairs, missions were on hold. Naruto and Sasuke's first official mission as Chunin was to find the new Hokage. This is when I met Naruto's godfather, the Toad Sage and Leaf Sannin Jiraiya. He was nothing like his title suggested. I mean, I expected him to be a noble sage filled with wisdom and experience, but he's a big pervert who objectifies women. He is also the author of those stupid books Kakashi Sensei reads. He, along with Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru, were to leave the village in order to find the final Leaf Sannin, who was known as the Slug Queen, Tsunade, since she was to become Hokage. When they returned, I was introduced to Lady Tsunade, who decided to make me her apprentice. Thankfully Rin Sensei had managed to help me get this far, otherwise I might have failed to make it in Tsunade's eyes. Her abilities far exceeded Rin Sensei's, who was the one who confirmed that Lee couldn't be a shinobi anymore, but Tsunade performed a special but dangerous operation on Lee. After a few months, Lee was up and his injuries were completely healed. Before my training began, Naruto told me that he would be leaving the village for a year to practice ninjutsu that was too dangerous to learn in the village. At the same time, Sasuke was going away with his elder brother Itachi to learn the secrets of his clan. The night before he left, we shared our first kiss and officially became boyfriend and girlfriend, and Ino came to my house the following day screaming in joy because apparently Sasuke and her did the same thing. I think they planned it so our anniversaries would be on the same day. A pair of arms envelop her from behind as Sakura reads back what she has just written in a journal she is keeping for the future. Naruto, I thought I told you to knock before coming into my room. She pretends to pout as he kisses her neck. She then hears her window open and hastily pulls another book over her journal. She was serious about him knocking, though, because he used to just climb in, which caused her to wake up in her room in just a towel. Fortunately, her parents were out of town and didn't hear her scream, so they laid Naruto out with a single punch. Naruto never entered the room again after that day. Naruto hums, "Sorry, but you looked so peaceful writing," as he looks down to see what she is writing. "This medical stuff?" he asks, and she nods. "Yeah, they're antidote recipes for poisons I've encountered with no published antidote," Sakura clarifies. "I need to write them down since there are so many," she continues. Naruto grins and says, "Wow, I can't believe you have homework. Thank goodness I'm not a medic," he continues, almost sensing Sakura's ire building. "How would you like to write, 'I must not make fun of my girlfriend's field since without it and I would have died years ago'?" Sakura asks, and Naruto shakes his head. "Thought so," she smirks triumphantly as she stands up and looks at her boyfriend. Naruto has grown taller over the past 3 years. and his hair has changed from spiked with bangs shaped like lightning bolts to long and reaching his shoulders. He wore the standard leaf chunin outfit, but he was not wearing his flak jacket. She melts when Naruto says softly, "I suppose it's a good thing that you are a medic. It means I'll always have you to take care of me," he says with a smile. Damn that stupid sexy smile, Sakura thinks, knowing that she can no longer be angry with him. Although her physical appearance hasn't changed much over the years, she has worn new clothes that include a red top that matches the upper half of her red keep-out dress with the white circular designs she wore as a genin, along with black gloves, black boots, black shorts, a short pink apron skirt, and pink elbow and forehead protectors that are now on a red cloth. She had to stand on her tiptoes to kiss him because she was shorter than Naruto, but Naruto helped her by lifting her up so she could more easily run her hands through his hair. "Did you talk with your mom yet?" she asks after suppressing a groan and ending the kiss. 2 days prior, Sakura had introduced Naruto to her parents, who appeared pleased with her choice of boys. Now, Sakura wanted to meet Naruto's mother, whom she had heard a lot about from Naruto, who spoke of her whenever he had the chance. Naruto responds, "Not yet. She's been busy settling in with her work and reconnecting with people she lost contact with when she moved out of the village," he says. He hasn't revealed to her the identity of his father or the nine-tailed fox that was sealed in him and is now fully repressed because of Kushina. Sakura gives him a puzzled look as he continues, "Not to mention that she will hate you regardless of how you two meet." "I mean you are taking her baby away," he says, grinning at her as he puts his arms around her once more. "I promise when I get back, I will introduce you too," he says reassuringly, receiving a slight nod and a smile. He leans in to kiss her on the top of her head while inhaling the smell of her strawberry shampoo. "I better get going. We are meeting up with the Sand Shinobi bright and early for the joint mission," Naruto says. As they part ways, Sakura says, "Yeah. Lady Tsunade wants me to take some of the students around the hospital tomorrow to see what it's like being a medic shinobi. Promise me you'll be safe," she says, sounding a little concerned. Sasuke and Naruto's missions together always ended badly very quickly. He walks to the window and says, "I swear I'll be fine. But I'm only safe when you're with me," he says. He turns and jumps out of the window, landing on the ground, grinning. He looks up to see her wave goodbye before shutting the window. Naruto hears a tall man with waist length, spiky white hair tied back into a ponytail and 2 shoulder length bangs framing both sides of his face repeat, "But I'm only safe when you're with me," in a mocking tone. "Seriously, have you two gone the whole way yet?" he asks. In addition to wearing a horned forehead protector with the kanji for oil, he had red lines running down from his eyes and a noticeable wart on the left side of his nose. He was dressed in a green short shirt, kimono, and matching pants, with mesh armor peeking out from the sleeves and legs. Handguards, a plain black belt, traditional Japanese geta, wooden sandals, a red haori with 2 plain yellow circles on either side, and a scroll on his back completed his ensemble. "Like that is something I'd tell you, Jiraiya," Naruto says, crossing his arms and giving him a gentle glare. This tall man is his godfather and, aside from Kakashi, one of the strongest male role models in his life. Jiraiya pouts when he asks, "What do you want?" Jiraiya asks dramatically, "Why can't a godfather come visit his godson and student just to say hello? Most can. You can't." Jiraiya sighs as Naruto deadpans, "What do you want?" "I'm thinking about asking Tsunade out, but I'm low on funds and I am looking for donations towards the Help Your Godfather Nail the Hokage charity," he says with a grin. When he asks, "How much?" Jiraiya gives him a figure, and Naruto takes out his wallet and gives him everything in it. Since Jiraiya left as soon as he had the money, Naruto's threat that, "You better pay me back," is meaningless. The next morning Shikamaru and Sasuke were waiting at the gate when Naruto arrived. "Sorry, I'm late," he says. "My godfather was asking me for tips on how to impress a girl while he robbed me blind," to which Shikamaru laughs. Shikamaru inquires inquisitively, "So what did you tell him?" He has become notably taller. He still wears his hair in the same way and has studs in his ears. He has also changed his costume, and he is the only member of Konoha 11 to wear clothing that more closely resembles Naruto's typical Chunin's ensemble. He wears a black long-sleeved shirt, matching pants, and sandals, as well as green-lined mesh armor around his wrists and ankles. His headband is still in the same spot, but only the metal portion, which appears to be sewn onto the shirt itself, is visible. Additionally, he has a Chunin's tanto. Well, I told him to change his name, dye his hair, lose some weight and stop writing those stupid books and he could get any girl he wants. Naruto giggles. He was okay with the first two, but calling him fat and mocking his books seemed to hurt his feelings, says Naruto. Despite being the designated leader for this mission, Sasuke would still boss them around if they didn't want to talk. "If you two are done making idle conversation, I'd like to get going before the shinobi of the sand start the mission without us," he says in his typical commanding tone. In addition to wearing the same Chunin outfit as the other two, Sasuke has become noticeably taller and more muscular over the past 3 years. He also has a Chikuto blade attached to his jacket, a black forehead protector, and the Uchiha crest stitched to his left shoulder. The three start walking to the meeting spot after Naruto sarcastically responds, "Whatever you say, bossman. According to the intel, our sand team will be waiting at a small tea hut in a town on the border of the Wind and Fire Nations," Naruto says, adding, "I'm curious to see who they send." Shikamaru responds, "It'll probably be those sand siblings, Temari, Kankuro, and Gaara." Temari has been assisting him with the impending Chunin exams for the past few months. Sadly for him, everyone else is aware that he enjoys spending time with the Sand Kunoichi, despite the way he acts. Naruto confirms, "Yeah, you and Temari have been working on the Chunin exams, right?" Shikamaru nods. "My student is taking that exam this year," he says smugly. Konohamaru Sarutobi is the third Hokage's grandson. Konohamaru clung to Naruto after the third's funeral and treated the blonde like a brother. Sasuke smirks, but his eyes widen as he instantly regrets saying that. He glances over and sees Naruto and Shikamaru suppressing their laughter. "Just because you helped him with his taijutsu doesn't make you a sensei," he says, looking over his shoulder as the three fly past the opening. "I mean, I helped braid Ino's hair yesterday, but that doesn't make me her hairstylist." Really? Naruto asks, his voice breaking. "How?" He can't finish as he and Shikamaru start laughing. "Did you paint each other's toenails too? Talk about cute boys and watch romantic films while swooning over the male protagonist?" He asks in between the laughs before he and Shikamaru start laughing even harder. Sasuke yells, "Shut up," and the three travel in silence for the remainder of the journey. A few hours later, they reach the tea hut, where the Sand siblings are waiting outside. The first is Temari, the oldest of the three. She has blonde hair pulled back in 4 ponytails, green eyes, and a black kimono that reaches her legs. It has a revealing neckline and slits along the side. She wears a red sash tied around her waist, black gloves without fingers, and a forehead protector that now hangs on her forehead instead of around her neck like it did previously. Next up is Kankuro the puppet user, who is dressed in black, including gloves and a long top and pants with a red sash around his waist. His face is covered in purple face paint, and he bears his puppets on his bandaged back, extending from the top of the upper lip to the base of the chin, and from one cheek to the lips and the end of the other cheek. It appears to form the letter T. Lastly, the youngest Gaara, who was quite small for a man his age, had a significant growth spurt. He wore a long, sleeved crimson coat with flaring hemlines on the front and back, a gray holster vest held in place by a single strap over his left shoulder, and 2 buckled belts that he uses to carry his gourd. He also wore full-length dark trousers with a pair of laces on each leg, respectively, a few inches below the waist and the knees. Additionally, he has another pair of belts around his waist that are worn casually. The 3 leaf shinobi land at the hut, attracting the Sand siblings' attention. When Gaara sees Naruto, her expression softens from a blank one. They both bear the burden of being a Jinchuriki. Gaara was able to suppress the one tail by strengthening his seal thanks to Kushina. Sasuke apologizes for the delay, pointing to Naruto, who glares. "We got delayed by the blonde idiot over here," he says. Gaara responds in a blank voice, "We only arrived a few minutes ahead of you." Temari glares at Kankuro as he responds, "Yeah, we can relate to the reason you were late." He laughs and says, "Just saying, sis." Hands in his pockets, Naruto asks, "How've you been, Gaara?" Gaara, who had been observing his siblings' arguments, turns to the blonde man and smiles slightly. Gaara responds, "I have been training the genin of our village since I became a Junin. They seem to be responding well. A good crop of students," he concludes. He sighs, "Well, at least they have." "No, they don't that either." Naruto scratches his chin and asks, "Sasuke, what do the students have?" "Wish I could say the same," he says. "I've been looking in on some classes and let's just say, nah, they aren't even worth the witty response," he says. Sasuke sighs and turns to face Gaara, the leader of the 3 siblings. "Lady Tsunade said you would fill us in on the mission details." He asks, and Gaara nods. "A blessing in disguise that they don't have to put up with you." "Correct," Gaara affirms. 2 days ago, 3 Rouge shinobi broke into our village and stole a scroll of forbidden jutsu." He then goes on, "Our village requested that the Hokages send us a genjutsu specialist." He looks at Sasuke, a strategist, Shikamaru, and a jutsu variant user, and finally Naruto. Temari asks Shikamaru, why would they send you as a strategist? But Naruto chooses to respond. Naruto says in a hurried laugh, because after he displayed some top-level strategies during a mission, the Hokage made him get an IQ test which showed he had an IQ of over 200. The three Sand Shinobi look shocked, and Sasuke grunts, not happy to be knocked off the top of the class in intelligence. What a drag, Shikamaru murmurs, shouldn't we get to the camp already? Naruto and Sasuke both nod. Wait a minute, Temari says. I think you should know something before we go, she adds. This mission is more than just retrieving the Forbidden Scroll. Confused, Sasuke asks, what do you mean? Well, as you know, we are the children of the fourth Kazekage who was assassinated by Orochimaru. Kankuro starts by saying, well, our village has gone without one for 3 years and the council have finally decided that Gaara should be the new Kazekage. The group of Leaf Chunin gave Kankuro a confused look before turning to face Temari, who nodded in agreement. The fact that Gaara was appointed a Kage at such a young age surprised the three Leaf Shinobi, demonstrating that he had matured from the murderous boy from the Chunin exams to a young man with leadership potential. It is only a possibility that I will become Kazekage, Gaara says. The Rouge who stole our village's Forbidden Scroll is Hisagi Satoru and he was the lead runner until he defected. Gaara starts by saying, if I can either kill or capture him and return the scroll, then I will be nominated to become Kazekage, he concludes. So us three getting picked is more than a coincidence. Naruto believes, the three of us were responsible for taking these guys down during the invasion. He continues, so what can you tell us about this Hisagi guy? Naruto inquires. He is a wind and fire style Junin level shinobi. Temari starts. He has brown hair and tanned skin. He is a tall man in his mid-20s and wears the standard shinobi attire for our village. She keeps going. He also carries a fan on his back like mine, only it is blue. She concludes. His base of operations is not too far from this cafe, she continues. Clever, using a building with many potential innocent casualties to restrict or force in attacking. Shikamaru raises his chin. I'll need to see the building myself before I can come up with a solid strategy, he replies. As he checks for various chakra signatures with his Sharingan, Sasuke asks, what kind of forces does Hisagi have? I'll bet they will have guards for me to interrogate if needed. As two men arrive from the building to relieve the current guards at the door, Gaara responds, we can't be sure, but it is likely a group of mercenaries. He may also have a few Chunin as well, he adds. If we can isolate a mercenary and have Sasuke place him under a genjutsu, then I can place a marking on him which will be my ticket in, says Naruto. Once I can locate the scroll and mark it before getting caught and leading them all outside, he continues. After finishing into an ambush, Shikamaru continues, I could then use my shadow manipulation to restrain the mercs. After observing the guards changing, he remarks, I'm timing to see how long the shifts are at the front door. He says, we might be able to find an opening that way. Gaara remarks, that's a lot for the three of you to handle. So you plan on taking the mercenaries leaving Hisagi to the three of us? He asks. The mercenaries have nothing to do with your village, so us taking them out is fine, but Naruto starts out. If we help you guys take out the guy who was going to be Kazekage, he departs. Sasuke goes on to say, it will make you look weak in the eyes of the other villages. Then that could lead to a war. And seeing as the Leaf and Sand are allies, we'd be dragged into the conflict too. Shikamaru continues. And that would be troublesome, he concludes. The team rushes into the town to locate the missing Nin's headquarters after Kankuro says, okay, enough talk. Let's just get this mission underway and we can see what strategy would work best. Returning to the Leaf, Sakura has been on her break for the past hour and a half, showing academy students interested in becoming medic shinobi her duties as a medic. Nin so they can get a sense of what a medic does on a daily basis. The students are currently eating their lunches and discussing child-related topics, which made Sakura feel old. Among the pupils was Hiro Hitaki, her sensei's daughter, who appeared to be following in her mother's footsteps by responding to all of Sakura's inquiries. At 7 years old, Hiro is the most popular girl in the school. Her brother, Obito, on the other hand, is the epitome of his father's shinobi, as he will graduate at 8 years old the following year. Sakura felt someone tap her shoulder while she was watching Hiro and her friends laugh. When she turned around, her sensei Rin's familiar face was there. In addition to being 4 months pregnant with her and Kakashi's third child, Rin, a senior doctor at the hospital, asks, so, how's my little girl? She has informed Sakura that the child is a boy and that they are considering naming him after Kakashi's father and the children's grandfather, Tsukumo, also known as the White Fang. Sakura says, she's amazing, she has a future in this field, and Rin responds, of course with you as her mother, and Rin then interrupts her. As Sakura's eyes enlarge a little, Rin says, and you as her sensei Sakura. I can think of no better person than you, Rin says, reaffirming her choice to be Sakura Hiro's sensei. She continues, besides my daughter loves you like family, which makes Sakura feel elderly once more. As the students rush to the corridor, Sakura says, see you later Rin sensei. She's like the kid sister or niece I've always wanted, she says, grinning and glancing at her watch. Lunch break is over, line up outside, and I'll show you where the library is, she says. Oh, and make sure to say hello to Naruto for me, I hear he visits you in your room. A lot. Rin grins as she sees Sakura turn red before scuttling to the students, thinking, she's growing up fast, before starting her rounds. I hope so Sakura, Rin says as she starts to leave. Returning to the Sand and Leaf squads when they reached the roof across from the target building, they saw boxes with the Sand Village crest on them being unloaded in front. Shikamaru, Naruto, and Sasuke turned to the Sand siblings. In a startled tone, Kankuro says, those are the supplies of equipment that went missing. 3 Chunin were killed as a result, he continues. Tamari glares, that bastard. He's planning an attack, she says, but on whom? As she turns to face Gaara. The Mist Village, he says in a monologue. Rumors of a civil war has broke out revolving around the succession of the 5th Mizukage Meiterumi and the death of the previous Mizukage Yagura who was said to be the cause of the village reverting to the Blood Mist Village. He continues. It seems Hisagi was planning to invade the mist before his treacherous ways were uncovered, he concludes. While they watch the undercover mercenaries impersonating customers in a nearby store, Shikamaru remarks, our best bet is to wait for nightfall. Less civilians to be drawn into a fight, Tamari says, shaking his head. As they all look around, Kankuro asks, so which guard would be the best choice? The one on the roof or the one guarding the front door? Says Sasuke. I'd bet they'd expect an attack from the roof so they will have the least amount of security, according to him. Because they would expect us to know that they know that, Shikamaru replies. Besides if Gaara and Naruto wait outside then they can catch any who flee if they do have the roof and upper floors highly secured. He continues and Gaara and Naruto nod. Now Sasuke and Tamari will combine their jutsu to make as much noise as possible and lead them to me and Kankuro who will have his crow puppet ready to trap Hisagi in and I'll take the rest with my shadow manipulation jutsu, he concludes. Sasuke, Tamari, Shikamaru, and Kankuro nod and leave Naruto and Gaara alone. I hear you and the pink-haired girl from your village are together. Gaara asks, and Naruto raises an eyebrow. I like that plan, Gaara says monotonely. But as I said kill him if your plan fails but secure the scroll. Naruto responds, yeah, we've been together for 2.5 years, maybe 2 and 9 months. What about you? Any girl to go home to? He asks, and he thinks Gaara simply smiles. Naruto smiles and puts his hand on Gaara's shoulder as he explains, yes. Matsuri. She is or was my student. She was also the first person outside of Tamari and Kankuro to accept me, he says. Naruto says, I'd hold on to her if I were you. She sounds like a keeper, and the two stop conversing to watch Shikamaru's plan come to pass. The village of the Leaf Sakura, Ino, Hinata, and Tenten are walking from the Hokage Tower. She looks up at the night sky, wondering where Naruto is and whether he is okay. She hasn't gone on many missions with him or Sasuke since she became a Chunin, and while she was happy, she missed those times. Despite the longer missions and additional work, Junin Neji and Tenten's relationship had grown more serious, and now the girls are discussing the men in their lives. Regarding Hinata, she announced to the girls that she had been secretly seeing Kiba for 2 weeks, which quickly became a topic of discussion among the group. As Hinata is about to speak, Ino interrupts, saying, I still can't believe you and Kiba are an item. I mean he's loud and annoying and you're shy and sweet, she adds. Not to mention he stinks of dog piss and is covered in dog hair. Hinata says, he's so bold and independent. She also says, he's firm and confident in his beliefs too. She concludes by saying, and when he wants to be he can be so sweet. Sakura asks Ino, who laughs, besides, haven't you heard that opposites attract? True, I mean you have Naruto, a hot blonde that's smart, funny, strong and charming. Ino goes through the list. And then there's you. Quick-tempered, self-conscious with a large forehead. She giggles. Another example, you have Sasuke, a strong, serious, smart, loyal and trusting. Sakura responds. And then there's you, a loudmouth gossip, shallow, full of herself pig, she responds. Tenten sighs and says, enough. Hinata nods, and she adds, this one-upping each other is getting old. Hinata concurs with Tenten when she says, you two need to find a better way to express your feelings for each other. Ino changes the topic and asks, want to get something to eat at Ichiraku? The three girls nod. Sakura claims that she hasn't eaten all day because she was preoccupied with the students for the majority of the day. Turning to Hinata, a student of Kurenai's, Ino asks, "Did you know Asuma-sensei and Kurenai-sensei are dating?" "Yeah, I had a team meeting and then my work at the flower shop kept me busy most of the day." The other girls swoon as Hinata responds, "Yes, she told us to help me and Kiba come to terms with our feelings." Tenten adds, "I haven't eaten today either. Me and Neji have been apartment hunting," she says, and the three girls give her a startled look. Tenten and Neji's relationship seemed more mature because they were older. Sakura and Ino exclaim, "You guys are moving in together." Tenten nods, adding, "I can't wait till me and Naruto are living together." Sakura exhales joyfully at the prospect. Ino's joyful squeal at the end causes the other girls to choke on their saliva, and when me and Sasuke live together and start making babies, she states. In the meantime, a man who is unconscious and bound is thrown into the crow puppet. Kankuro remarks, "That plan worked out well in the end despite the minor mishaps." Sasuke is also bandaging Naruto's severely burned arm and right sleeve. Kushina hardened the seal on Naruto's stomach to stop the Nine Tails chakra from escaping, but the drawback is that Naruto's wounds don't heal quickly and seem to hurt much more. "Yeah, minor mishaps," he says sarcastically as he winces when the disinfectant touches his wound. Kankuro nods as he continues, "At least we got the guy." Temari tells Gaara, who nods, "I sent a report ahead to the village telling them of our success." The two teenagers exchange glances as Gaara asks, "Good. Shikamaru, can you tend to my sister's wound?" Shikamaru responds, "Troublesome." "Sure." Temari was about to object when she felt a trickle of blood emerge from beneath her headband, eliminating any possibility that Gaara would let it fall off. Shikamaru took off her headband as his chest leaned into her face, allowing her to smell him as she sighed and sat on a wall. He anticipates the wound and says, "It's a long cut but not too deep that would require stitches." Temari nods, and he goes on, "But you should have a checkup, that bump may have given you a concussion." She found it annoying that he spoke like a baby, but it made her feel special to have his eyes on her alone. He warned her that this might sting, after dabbing some cleaner on a cloth and holding it to her head. Temari reminds him that she was a higher rank, saying, "Shikamaru, I am a Junin level kunoichi. I think I can." "Ow!" she yells in a girly tone as the cloth slides along the cut. She looks at his smirking face and wants to strike him, but the only thing she can do in this situation is to look sideways with a pouty blush. In order to prevent the fabric from her headband from rubbing against the cut, he finished applying a plaster to it and reopened it. "Done," he says, getting to his feet, and she follows suit. Temari says, "Thank you, Shikamaru," with embarrassment, and Shikamaru nods before heading to see how his injured teammate is doing. As Sasuke applies bandages to his forearm, Naruto mockingly asks, "Are you sure you mastered that jutsu?" Sasuke responds, "You make it sound like I hit you by accident," and Naruto raises an incredulous eyebrow. Naruto notices a cunning smile on Sasuke's face and asks, "Don't you mean, you make it sound like I hit you on purpose?" He grins and folds his arm before applying a bandage to his shoulder. "I know what I said," he says, getting to his feet, dusting himself off, and stretching as Naruto gets up. "Overall it was a success," says Naruto. "Despite my injury, and the damage to the building, and that other building catching fire." He lets out a breath. He looks at Sasuke and Shikamaru, who nod in agreement, and sighs, "We'll be lucky to get paid." Sasuke, Naruto, and Shikamaru nod in agreement as Gaara bows and says, "Thank you for your assistance, Leaf Shinobi. I will make sure to let your Hokage know how helpful you were," he continues. Naruto scoffs as Shikamaru remarks, "I think it would be wise for us to accompany you to your village." While Shikamaru coughs to conceal his embarrassment, Naruto dodges a rock thrown at him by a blushing Temari. "Geez, just kiss her already," Naruto exclaims out loud, and Kankuro and Sasuke snicker. "I don't think it will be necessary," Gaara replies. "But I appreciate the offer, and you have my approval to kiss my sister before we go." He smiles as Temari and Shikamaru look at him with gaping mouths and red cheeks while Naruto, Sasuke, and Kankuro all start laughing. The Leaf Trio bid the Sand siblings farewell after they had all calmed down and began the night-long journey back to the Leaf. With the mission over, Sasuke smirks and glares, and Naruto responds, "I like Gaara, but I always thought he had less humor in him than you do. I still can't believe Gaara burned the two of them." While Shikamaru tries his best to ignore them both, Sasuke concurs, saying, "True. He always seemed to have no emotion, but it seems the invasion changed him." Naruto inquires, "So what are your plans for yours and Ino's anniversary date?" They started dating Sakura and Ino on the same day, so they could assist in organizing each other's anniversaries. I'm thinking of taking Sakura to that new fancy restaurant that just opened up, he replies. We could double up, Sasuke responds. Since Sakura will be 18, it will be our first anniversary as adults eligible to drink alcohol, he continues. Yeah. Naruto smiles, having made the decision to wait until Sakura was 18 before doing anything that was 18 and over so they could share their first experiences together. Shikamaru remarks, it sounds like a costly anniversary. What do you intend to get them as a present? He asks. Given that he doesn't get paid enough to keep Ino up to date with the latest fashions, Sasuke sighs and says, Ino has been asked for a necklace she saw the other day. Naruto explains, Sakura saw a pair of earrings from the same store. Fortunately, Sakura wasn't as conceited about her appearance, but it was still rather costly for her to beat the blonde girl. The three depart early in the evening and reach the village an hour before sunset. Since they know Tsunade won't be in her office until the morning, they decide not to report. Shikamaru goes to his clan's house, while Sasuke goes to the compound. Naruto decides to visit his girlfriend after noticing his mother sleeping soundly on his way home. She had left her window slightly open when he got there so he could enter if he wanted to stay the night. They haven't had sex, of course, but he enjoyed holding her and she enjoyed waking up in his arms. After removing his jacket and shoes, he lay next to her and gently lifted her up so that one arm was draped over her chest and the other hooked around her waist. He could feel her steady, disdainful breathing as she slept soundly, and he closed his eyes and fell asleep. She had left her window slightly open when he got there so he could enter if he wanted to stay the night. They haven't had sex, of course, but he enjoyed holding her and she enjoyed waking up in his arms. After removing his jacket and shoes, he lay next to her and gently lifted her up so that one arm was draped over her chest and the other hooked around her waist. He could feel her steady, disdainful breathing as she slept soundly, and he closed his eyes and fell asleep. The morning after, Sakura's eyes opened as the room became brighter and she felt safe and warm. She then felt a hand resting on her stomach and turned to see her cherished blonde boyfriend's sleeping face. Morning, she said, hearing his dry throat say, morning to you too. She slid her hands up his jumper and shook him gently awake, feeling his arms tighten around her and bringing her into his chest, where she was contentedly cuddled. He hears her murmuring something into his chest as he asks, what are you looking for? What? He asks again. He usually sleeps topless unless he's injured, so she says gravely, I'm looking for bandages. Where is it? She asks. In an attempt to sound sincere, Naruto asks, what do you mean? As he removes his jumper to reveal his bandaged arm and size. She gasps and presses her fingers against the fabric around his arms, asking, what happened? Naruto remarks, there was an incident involving me and Sasuke. He cleaned it up. He then gets up quickly. In an adult voice speaking to a child, she says, I'll be the judge of that. Now march yourself to the hospital so I can examine it, she says. Naruto gets dressed and sulks as he leaves her window. You're such a mom, he exclaims, leaping to the ground and leaving with his hands in his pockets. Sakura quickly takes a shower after he departs before going to the hospital to check on Naruto. In the meantime, Tsunade asks Sasuke and Shikamaru, who have presented their mission report, so Gaara is the new cage? It's in the file. Sasuke responds, although they may have picked someone else, but what the three Sand siblings suggested, this was a mission to prove his ability to retrieve intel stolen from the village. He continues, I'm sure we'll find out soon, afterward. To be without a cage for so long has made them vulnerable in the eyes of the neighboring villages, Tsunade murmurs. And they choose someone so young doesn't seem to have improved their position, she continues. I doubt the other villages will risk a war for it now, Shikamaru responds. But it doesn't fill me with confidence with a violent Raikage and a cynical Tsuchikage, he grunts. Tsunade asks, by the way, where is Naruto's report? As she notices the two boys grinning in front of her. What? Oh, she smirks now that she knows where to look for Naruto. Shikamaru turns to leave after saying, I'll be going now, Lady Hokage. Asuma-sensei is waiting for me, he says, before turning to face Sasuke. See ya, Sasuke, he says, and Sasuke nods. After leaving the room, Sasuke turns back to Tsunade.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.